Everybody get excited for those in the assisted living establishment. Open up a Jello pudding pop for the Geeky Geezers.
Yep.
I remember pudding pops.
Thanks a lot, Auditor Dread.
Tell me about the good old days. Remember pudding pops? They were delightful.
Oh, yes. I also remember who the spokesperson was for them. We're not supposed to talk about him anymore.
We can't talk about him. We can't talk about him, and it's sad because he was a brilliant comedian.
Because he'd get the pudding pops and we'd pop them in our mouths.
Oh,
just
man.
like the drink he gave you.
Yeah, that's not cool. I feel bad because he was one of my... He was one of the adults entertainment I looked up to as a kid, was Bill Cosby. I remember.
Here's the thing to keep in mind. Assuming everything they said about him was true, that's all terrible and bad and whatnot. But what you people need to understand is these celebrities that we all look to that we think are so wonderful and pure and, American royalty and whatnot, these are not necessarily good people. All that stuff you hear about, Weinstein and the hashtag Me Too and all that kind of stuff, this is nothing new. This is where they come from. And the 70s especially. The 70s were a crazy time. You talk about the drugs that you kids, or the crack and the whatnot. Well, back then it was Quaaludes, and you think, what do they call the date drug? Whatever it is.
Something drug, yes. I know
yeah. Well, the idea of being slipped a Mickey is not something that started in the 80s and 90s, folks. This goes back to, it was alcohol and it was all kinds of things before that. And, Obi-Wan would say about Hollywood, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. I would say it just kind of mirrors the East Coast, Washington, D.C. Either way, both hell on earth. Okay, just saying. So we should not be surprised when we hear something like this. What we should be surprised about is every time a celebrity apparently has a clean slate, because that's probably not the case.
That might be a good Friday night discussion stream.
Okay, well.
I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying,
I'll keep that in mind.
I'm sorry. I remember when the Weinstein thing came out, and I'm like, I was in shock. And you shouldn't have been shocked. Yeah, I was. Because I thought this whole casting couch thing, maybe a producer might make a sleazy pass at an actress. I didn't know it was that extreme. And I was genuinely shocked by it all. And I felt bad because, say what you want about Harvey Weinstein, and there are a lot of bad things you say about him, but I felt growing up in the 90s, he was giving a lot of younger directors chances who probably wouldn't have gotten a chance by other people.
Well, and this is what
you would not get a Quentin Tarantino today.
And there are a lot of golden age, actresses that are like, oh, honey, this is what you did to get ahead, and you're complaining about it now. Yes, Big Al, leave it to Big Al to know Rohypnol. Why do you know that? No, I'm playing. Thank you for.
Was that the stuff that was in that toy that came from China years back? The what was it?
That was lead.
Aquadots. Oh no, Aquadots. Remember Aquadots?
No, I don't.
That came out. It had like they contained that drug. They were some kind of toy that came from
really.
China. Apparently, the liquid inside them was that stuff that was found in the Mickey drug.
Ew.
This was back in the aughts when that came out. It was a big controversy.
And then Big L's picking on me for my Cosby impression. Well, I'm not really the impression guy, so at least you knew who I was doing. It was good enough.
We get high, sweetie.
Yep. She's Horizon Talker, hello the chat. Thank you for being here too.
Yeah, and let's see what else is in here. Hold on. I'm all messed up right now.
David
by the way, what are you sipping on? What are you sipping on?
I'm actually not sipping on anything right now. I didn't even realize I didn't have a drink. Yeah, okay. I got to talk. Well, I was hanging out with Stephen Otten before this, and then I went. We were talking behind the stream, so I guess now I'm going to be drinking a Fuji apple because Netter gave me her drink.
Oh, that sounds nice. A Fuji
Mm-hmm.
apple.
Mm-hmm. It's
Well,
that sparkling water that we've been drinking lately.
Auto Dread depends. Get off the lawn. It's
First
time to get your
apple.
geezer
Yes.
on. Thank you.
Yep. Get your geezer on.
This should be on. This should be on the banner. I should put that on the banner.
Get your geezer on. Right.
Um,
Connie
I,
Cleary
I, I
followed
love
us
you
over
too,
from...
Troy. Wow, that's. Oh wait, you're talking to Netter. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's see. Good evening, D Pensek. Okay, I think I already said you. Let's see. Connie Cleary. Where is it?
She's exactly after this. The very next comment.
Hold on. There we go.
You're not on live chat, are you? You're on top chat.
I'm in StreamYard chat, which is just weird. No, I keep slipping all over the place here. Hold on. Connie Cleary, Netter's the okay. Hello, Joshua V. Deleted scenes, welcome. I had mentioned. Oh, and I just realized I didn't mention Mother's Day in my stream.
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there that's a mother. And
Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers.
yes. And you know, happy day to those that aren't. It's always awkward because it's like, yeah. But happy Mother's Day to Netter, right? So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Zootopia.
Joshua V. Zootopia. Yep. And I'm trying to scroll ahead of you.
Eventually, they'll have artificial wombs, and they can just put them in anyone. Then anyone can be a mother, right?
Yes, we still call them mothers, not birthing persons.
Oh no. Okay. That was a terrible cosmic. See, I'm so behind. By the way, pudding pops were amazing because you had the chocolate pudding pops, you had the vanilla pudding pops, and then you had the swirl pudding pops. Remember those?
Yes, I do.
Daniel Heron, who's this guy? Oh wait, there you are. Make me buy the soundtrack. Okay. I gotta tell you, Birdman, interesting movie, Uncut Gems. I may be picking up the soundtrack to that shortly. It's a weird one though. I don't know if you'd like the soundtrack. It's not. I don't think it's orchestral. It's like 80s synth wave.
Oh,
I'm not simping on much. I have many things to do. You mean sipping? I hope.
Either way, right?
Well, let's face facts. You know, most men have the simping thing in them. You have to quell it, right?
Well, you know, I got the simping thing, and
Yes.
and she married it. So.
Well, there's that. That's a good thing. What are we talking about tonight? Good old days.
Let's start out with the good old days. Let's go back to what, like 1980 something?
No, I'll find you. I'll find
85.
85, big year for movies. But there's one I'm thinking of.
This one was late in the year. It was a wintertime movie. This was like
It was a Christmas movie, wasn't it?
Well, it came out right after Thanksgiving. I guess it would.
And it
last through
ends
the
on Christmas
season.
Day. This particular
Yes, it
movie.
does. Yes, it does.
And
It takes place in the snow an awful lot, as a matter of fact, because it's not set in the U.S. It's set in Russia.
But it has a kick-ass American song in it called "Living in America."
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
insulting poor James Brown there, but there we go.
Brown.
That wonderful. That could. There's your next national anthem. That's what they should start playing. Make "Living in America" a national anthem. What do you think of that, huh?
Yeah,
It's the
no.
most amazing song. Let's all Rocky IV, in case y'all haven't.
I mean, talk about nationalism. Ha! I feel good.
So here we go. Rocky IV.
See, and I thought you were going to say "Burning Heart." That was the Survivor song, right? Oh
Yeah,
gosh, I know this isn't soundtracks with Birdman's kind of soundtrack, but I love these pop songs of the 80s in these movies, because then you'd be hearing them on the radio all the time.
Yeah.
And Burning Hearts was one of my workout songs. Right up there with Eye of the Tiger. Of course, the original Rocky theme, Gonna Fly Now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Rocky IV. Now, we've talked about Rocky before, both on your channel and mine, and I think that a lot of people got this impression, especially by the time Rocky IV came along, that it was going a little jump the shark-ish. But I would challenge anyone who's thinking that. Go back and rewatch this series of films. The first movie is incredibly dramatic. you know? And it was before we got into all of these all the tropes of the montage, the workout montage. Yeah, Big Al's talking about it. Time for a training montage. Yeah, exactly. Well, before we had any of that, you know, you had the first Rocky movie, which was just a drama. It was a drama is what it really was. It was about a guy down on his luck, working in a meat packing plant, you know, kind of falls for his buddy's sister, and she's super, super shy. He wants to become a boxer. He gets his shot. And quick trivia, and I mean this to be a rhetorical question for you, Boomer, but trivia question to the chat: who won the fight at the end of the first Rocky movie? Real quick, think about it. I think this is kind of like the trivia question: who was the murderer in Friday the 13th? You know, and everyone goes, "Oh, it was Jason." No, it wasn't Jason.
Was it a tie?
It was Pamela Voorhees.
Was it a tie?
No, it was not. Apollo won that fight, and Auditor Dredd got it. Yeah. I
need to rewatch those. I have them on Blu-ray. I actually got the Blu-ray for them.
That is the whole thing. You think the hero wins, right? No, because it wasn't about who won the fight. It was about him, you know, getting his shot, you know? And yes, Carl Weathers, Apollo, Creed, yeah, all of you. You're all right. And that's why in the second one he comes back and he gets his he wants a rematch. And
brilliant setup for a sequel, though, right?
It absolutely is. It didn't strictly need a sequel, but that was the smart way to go about it for a sequel, right? And you get the second movie, and look, he lost the first time, so he's got to work even harder this time around. And it's not an easy win. He barely wins that one, you know? And one could even argue it was kind of a technical win, right? So he, as I recall, I got to go back now and rewatch it. I think that that Apollo at the end felt like it was kind of unfair, and he wants a rematch, but he says this time no cameras, it's just you and me. And they end the movie with them just, you know, sparring just for their own edification. No cameras, right?
Yes.
And you know, the rivals have become friends, right? Yes. Which brings us to the third movie, where now it's we got another fighter coming out of obscurity, this guy Clubber Lang. And in the very Muhammad Ali kind of style, the very, you know, self-assured, you know, put the other guy down kind of thing, and he's, you know, challenging. He wants Rocky to fight him. He wants to take the championship, and Rocky's like, I don't want to fight anymore. He's been told he shouldn't fight because he's taken too many blows to the head.
Yes.
It's not a good idea for him. His wife doesn't want him to. He's got a kid now, right? And so he ends up fighting Apollo. Am I misremembering it? He ends up fighting Apollo, and Apollo gets killed. So
what?
Rock, yeah,
no,
doesn't he?
Are you talking about Rocky
No, I'm
4?
sorry, it wasn't Rocky. No, it wasn't
Rocky 3.
It was Rocky 3. It was Burgess Meredith's character that gets killed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting them all confused here. It was Burgess Meredith that gets killed. So that's what brings Rocky out of retirement, and it's Apollo that ends up training him. Right? So, again, the adversary becomes friend, becomes trainer, right? And it doesn't go real well initially because he's kind of too much in his head, right? He's not focused, and this is where the music starts coming in, right? The line, the eye of the tiger. You got to focus. You got to get the eye of the tiger. You've got to have that same burning in your chest that you did when you first fought me, right? Don't let the things he's saying distract you, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So that's the third movie. The fourth movie, yeah, I see. Because I was focusing all day on Rocky IV because I knew that's what we were going to talk about. So that brings us to Rocky IV, right? And it's Apollo versus
Drago.
Drago, because they're doing the whole, Russia, the Cold War, Russia versus United States kind of a thing. And Apollo was the Star-Spangled one. He had the red, white, and blue shorts and everything, right? So
he comes out. The Russians want to challenge an American boxer, right? Right, and I think that's how it starts. And Apollo. I think, what do they make some claim like he's the greatest boxer? I'm trying to remember. And Apollo takes offense to this. He's wanting to go after this guy, and I think Rocky's telling him don't do it or whatever. I think this.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on. But I guess Apollo Creed takes pride in being American, and of course this was, like you were saying, height of Cold War, and.
Yeah.
So I want to say he almost takes the bait, or takes the challenge, I should say. Yeah.
But the thing that I was getting at by giving you the background on the three is because you see Rocky and his opponents and where their headspaces change over the course of a single movie or over the course of multiple films, where Rocky goes from having that burning in his chest, the hunger to rise up and become the champion. Then he starts to get a little bit full of himself, right? And he starts, kind of working out in front of people and getting his picture taken and doing commercials and stuff. And then he ends up kind of, slipping back a little bit. He gets a little bit soft. And that's when, he's got to get that eye of the tiger back again. He's got to get his head on straight again. Mm-hmm. And very interestingly, then you get to this movie and they do a very similar kind of thing where you see, again, you have Ivan. Was it Ivan Drago?
Yeah.
Do I have the wrong Drago? Okay.
Hold on, I'll find out. I got the thing up there. Yeah, I think it's Ivan Drago.
Ivan Drago, who is, in the very typical Cold War style, he was there representing Russia, and Russia took a very direct interest in him, and his life was about fighting. It was about building himself up. He had to be the best of the best. Mm-hmm. There's the implication that maybe he was getting a little chemical augmentation, so to speak.
Well, we don't get initial. I mean, they make a point that we have the best equipment to train him on and stuff like. It's
and
all
then
the
you see, these very well. But there's the shot of him getting an injection. Could have just been some vitamins.
Some vitamins.
Know. But it's implied. But you are seeing these very high tech. You have the what are they called? The resistance machines, the hydraulic presses and so forth and whatnot, and the electronic monitors and all this kind of stuff. And Rocky, who had access to similar stuff here in the United States, and you saw this a little bit, in the previous movie, he eschews all of that. He goes to Russia. And he gets back to his roots. And how does he work out? He works out and he's in Russia working out, right? By chopping wood, right? And running through the snow that's up to his waist. So you got to lift your feet really high to get above it, right? And at one point, he goes and he helps out a Russian farmer pull his tractor out of a ditch or whatever. And, that's exercise for him too. All the time being shadowed by the KGB. Right?
Yep.
Who keeping an eye on him. And he doesn't care, but at one point he's running and they're chasing after him. So he starts running faster and they're chasing in a car. They're in a car, he's running. And he's running and they're chasing him and he gets him going so fast. And then he turns sharply and because they're in the snow, they can't keep up with him. They go right into the snowbank and he laughs,
But what sets all this up, though, the reason why he goes to Russia is because Apollo Creed is the first one to fight Drago. And Apollo Creed, let's be honest, there's a little bit of hubris there.
Right.
America's the best. Because he's not just, the Apollo Creed is not just him. It's like, America's the best. We're the best. I'm the best. Yeah. He comes out with that great number from James Brown, Living in America. With the showgirls. Like, it's a whole Vegas show. With red, white, and blue shorts, I believe he has on. This really is the United States versus Russia. And he goes up to Drago after the whole song and dance. And then Drago says, "You will lose."
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking the way the match is going on, and you have to watch the movie, but it is brutal. It's terrifying, and he's going he's just getting pummeled by this guy, and even Rocky's like just, you know, he's basically like he's wanting to call the match. I'm not letting you back in. Like Apollo's pleading with Rocky, let me back.
And
in.
I have to wonder. And I'm going to have to go back and watch this again and see if I get the same impression that I did when I first saw it. But I was always under the impression that there was a point in that fight when Apollo knows he's screwed, right?
Yeah.
And he knows that what everyone's telling him is right. He probably should quit. But there's a part of him saying, I have to see this through because of my hubris. I set myself up and I have to see it through. And if that means that's it for me, I have to give it everything, because I am representing myself and my family and America, And is it smart? Is it wise? Maybe not. But there is a certain nobility there.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a noble character in this movie, despite the song and dance, but that's kind of how we Americans are, in a way. Everything's bigger in America. That's the whole point. And I kind of feel Drago still could have won the match without being as nasty in that match, too. I got that impression.
But you also get the impression from what you're seeing. Him and his wife and the training montage, right? You kind of start to see that and this is something that we've always believed here in the United States, looking at, Russian athletes in the Olympics and so on and so forth. It's like, you are the property of your state. Your life is not your own.
Yeah.
We celebrate our freedoms here. You have no freedom. You are nothing but an extension of your government.
I was terrified when some of these countries with some of their athletes, because I'm like, yeah, I'm rooting for the U.S., but a part of me feels bad if they lose. What's going to happen to them if they go back home? I don't know. Some of these countries,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I haven't seen the Creed movies yet. I know that the story of Drago and his family continues. So I'll probably get more insight on that. But yeah, this and again, I cannot underscore this enough for the younger people in the audience. This was during the Cold War. This was the Reagan era. This was the height of American nationalism, the anti-Russian, sentiment, which apparently most people have not gotten over. I guess our country hasn't grown up since the 80s, but people think it's still the 80s. I, on the other hand, actually had a friend that I met in church who came from Russia, and I talked with him about it. I'm like, I grew up all my life. The Russians are the bad guys. And he's like, don't feel bad. We were told the same thing. He's like, you live and you learn. And that, you know.
Well, we were all afraid we were going to blow each other up. That was the big thing back then. That's part of where that hatred came from, and I'm sure it was the same on the other side too.
And that's what was great about. And
the ending. Again, the ending. I know what you're thinking, right?
We may as well, because look, I mean, if you haven't seen these movies by now, you really, really should.
Well, we won't even say who wins the match, but you can probably predict who.
It doesn't matter, actually.
But actually,
it actually doesn't matter. The message of it is. That this doesn't make one country greater than the other, and Rocky kind of addresses the audience again. He's in Russia giving this speech, so it's got to be.
What he says, because I remember what he says.
I don't remember the exact words.
This is what he says. He says, at the beginning of this match, before the match started, I hated you. He's talking to the audience, and I think you hated me. But now that this match is over, I don't think I hate you so much, and I don't think you hate me so much either. And he says that to the audience. And you even have a Gorbachev stand-in the background.
Yeah.
And part of me almost imagines that Gorbachev himself watched this movie and then decided to start talks with the U.S.
I think that it was you might not be that off if either it contributed or it was a response to the relationship between Gorbachev and Reagan, and tear down the wall and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We made some really great strides towards peace.
Yeah.
And say what you want to about, the Star Wars program, by which I mean the strategic initiative in the Reagan era, not the, George Lucas films.
Right.
This whole idea of proliferation and the idea of mutually assured destruction, MAD, right? It premised itself on the idea that Russians love their children too. They love their country and they don't want it to end, just to take us out. So neither side is ever going to start that World War III. Fast forward to today, and it seems like the West really does want to start that, and Russia still doesn't want to.
Yeah, that's what it's feeling like. Sometimes we're actually, I was going to say don't poke the bear, but it's funny if you look at historically, it's what's represented by the bear. We're represented by the eagle.
Right.
I think that's
exactly.
But
exactly.
But also just in general, I was also worried after the Cold War that if some of these other nations got their hands on nuclear armed ones that had more reckless leaders that didn't care about the mutually assured destruction. Did you know that Robert McNamara, you remember he was the Secretary of State during Kennedy? He was in a documentary called Fog of War by Errol Morris. It's a great documentary. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think McNamara might be a little off his rocker himself, but he's on this documentary. He's explaining a meeting he had with Fidel Castro way after the whole Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Yeah. And he talked to Fidel Castro. This is what he says Fidel Castro told him. It wasn't the Russians that were egging on for a nuclear strike. Castro was the one who wanted it.
Yep.
And that's terrifying. He says, you would do that knowing that we would have retaliated and wiped Cuba off the map. And he said, yes, he would have.
And
Isn't that insane?
And there are a lot of other little countries that are like that. But here's the thing to remember. And I firmly believe to this day that Russia and the United States, the Cuban Missile Crisis seems really bad if you just read the history books. But a lot of the behind the scenes is like this was never going to happen. They were going to work this out without blowing each other up. And I'll be honest with you, if it came to it and it became an exchange between the U.S. and Cuba, I think Russia would have disavowed Cuba and said, that they went a little too far. Go ahead, take care of it.
Did you see 13 Days? I think it was the Cuban Missile Crisis movie. Kevin Costner was in it.
Yes, I did.
Was it historically accurate, or was that another one that played fast and loose?
It was another one of those ones that got the broad points correct.
Okay, well that's good.
And had to Hollywoodize some of it, kind of like I did with the Argo thing.
Right.
It was a lot of similarities and whatnot. But yeah, and I think the same thing would be true today if, let's say, some Middle Eastern country backed some a single shot terrorist with a with a bomb they carry in and set it off in a city or something like that. If the U.S. decided to retaliate, the theory is the World War III doomsday scenario is that every country would unleash on whatever country starts the thing, and their allies would retaliate and this and that. I don't believe that's true. I think most countries would say, well, you effed up, and now you're going to they're going to turn your country into glass, and we're just going to sit here and watch. Bye.
Huh. That also reminds me how one of the finales of Doctor Who, the governments of the I guess like the UN or the government of the world had a scenario set up so if the Daleks ever threatened to take over the Earth or something, that they would destroy the Earth.
The Osterhagen Code.
And I thought that was interesting. I guess
who would come up with something like that? Well, someone named Osterhagen, I guess.
I know, and I thought that was funny.
No, absolutely right. And but yeah, we got a little bit off topic, but it's a worthwhile one because that's where the headspace was at the time.
Yeah.
And back then, believe it or not, the subversive idea was to fight for peace. You didn't want war. Anti-war sentiment. Imagine that.
Yeah, well, that's what. Well, eventually we'll get to that on Sounds Like Bourbon. We have to have you on for that. But Star Trek 6 was about that.
Absolutely. Star Trek 6 was definitely,
Fighting
clearly,
for peace.
without a doubt, an allegory for the Russian American thing at the time.
Yeah.
You know, the whole Praxis blowing up being an analog of
To
the
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl. Oh,
Yeah.
we could do a whole show just about Chernobyl. Thank you, Skipper Kenner, for getting me to watch that mini-series.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that someday. Yeah, that'll be a good Friday night talk. Maybe you have Skipper
I think
Kenner
so
on with
too.
you.
Yeah, we'll have to plan on that. But yeah, so that's my memory. Well, that's my memory of the films, but there was more to it. Just like everyone, you can't talk about, like, say, Batman 89 without talking about all the toys, right? There was a great deal of marketing that went into this.
What, Rocky IV?
remember,
Yeah.
I can't remember what fast food place it was. It was like Burger King or Arby's or something like that, where you go in and you get, you know, your dollar meal, your meal deal or whatever.
Right.
And for a little extra, you could get a T-shirt. It was a sleeveless black T-shirt with the Russian and American, what do you call it? Boxing gloves coming together.
Oh,
you know?
interesting. Oh, that's a cool
And
shirt.
that was the first time I got a sleeveless shirt. And I liked it so much. Every summer for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I got a bunch of muscle shirts, and kind of inspired me to work out too. So that by the time I was, in my senior year, I had no neck and these huge, shoulders and whatnot.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. I thought I looked pretty good. I kind of offset it though because I had a mullet, but forget that.
Well, it was the 80s.
It was
Fashion. There were some odd fashion choices people had. In the
Look,
80s.
Peter Parker had a mullet. Clark Kent had a
Superman
mullet.
had one.
I mean,
I remember
yeah.
that. Just the thing. So did Joe Dirt, but we won't talk about that.
Well, that's a whole different thing. Yeah.
All right, Auditor Dread. The fourth movie had a robot, and that's what's most important. Yes, Rocky IV had a robot in it, because AI is just around the corner, but it never is. I'm sorry I said that out loud. We'll talk about AI later.
We'll talk more about AI,
but yeah, he had a robot, and I think he reprogrammed it to act like his wife. Was that what it was? And like she would get, it was Paulie. Paulie had it, right? I think that's
because he kind of turned it into a girlfriend, which was weird because it was this clearly bulbous headed, weird looking thing. It's like, oh gosh.
Well, it's not all about the looks, Sometimes you want companionship to someone to talk to, right? I'm sorry.
I mean, sometimes, your household AI, you want to give her a mobile hollow emitter so you can take her out with you.
Did you ever see the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix? I think I asked you this before.
No, I haven't.
Scarlett Johansson's the AI in that. Oh,
I
no.
know that.
It's just her voice. There's not like a visage of her, and it's just it's her and Joaquin Phoenix and their relationship, and that's a horrible future.
I'll probably have to get around to.
It's an interesting one, yeah. If you like science fiction, it's an interesting sci-fi film. All right, Hearts on Fire. Okay.
Strong desire. Yeah, absolutely.
He chases a chicken too for training. Well,
yes, that's right. That's right. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever been on a farm and you've had to wrangle chickens, you know how difficult that is. John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band.
Living in America. Subscribe to Deleted Scenes if you have not already. You could be the 200th subscriber. That is a place of honor.
And even if you are subscribed or believe that you are, just double check, would you? Because me and Netter and Steven, we all, got a big bump in our numbers yesterday, and then the following day we lost them all. So
Creed had that red, white, and blue top hat and tails. Gotta love it. Yeah. Yep. No, that was an amazing outfit he had on when he walks out. Rocky IV greater than Superman 4. Hate to say it, I think Superman is trying to tackle a similar subject and crashes immediately, whereas Rocky IV, because it's funny, I think of both in somewhat the same light. Because the beginning of Superman 4, like there's some Russian cosmonauts in space, and he saves them, and he and he says something nice to them in Russia before flying out. That's a nice little Superman scene. That's something Superman would do. He would,
Yeah, there was
he would save the cosmonauts.
Superman, and I'm going to say Superman 3 as well. Superman 3 and 4, there are some great things about them.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I am planning to do a watch party of a fan edit that puts 3 and 4 together into one movie, and it's a much, much better film.
I don't want to get off track on those too much tonight, but I do want to say this. In Superman 3 and 4, whatever you want to say about them, Christopher Reeve is still playing Superman in those movies.
Yeah, you can't.
The stories he in may stink, but it's still Superman.
You can't even pick on the Superman character in those movies.
Yeah, he acts like Superman would. Yeah.
He did everything right, and it was perfect. But yeah. I had no idea. Deleted scenes. Honestly, never saw Superman 4 because of the bad reviews. Again, it's one of those movies where if you like those Christopher Reeve films, it's worth checking out and just kind of going what might have been, what that movie could have been. We'll talk more about that on my channel when we do a watch party. But
yeah, that'll be interesting. Don't forget to like and share the stream. Thank you. Deleted scenes. Joshua V. That's what got me into the Rocky movies, is Rocky 4. I think for some reason Rocky 4 was a first Rocky movie for a lot of people. And I need to go back and watch the whole series again, front to back. And I do have the Blu-ray set, so there's no real good excuse. But I need to check it out.
Yeah. So
Carl Weathers, national treasure. He fought a predator. He did. Carl Weathers, underrated actor. I'm glad he kind of got a second wind on The Mandalorian. But they really should have been using him in more movies over the years. But yeah. It was funny actually in Predator when him and Arnold lock grips. And it's like, who's going to rip whose arm off? That's how big their biceps were.
Yeah. Classic stuff. Yeah. But so what got you thinking to bring up Rocky 4?
Okay, well, we got some news tonight. Let's go to our first news article of the night.
Okay.
And if you want to go ahead and paste it for me.
Yeah. I had to paste it in 2 parts. Even though I did try to edit down that title, you can only go so far sometimes.
I have to say, we'll have plenty to talk about later with those other articles. Okay, Aquaman 2 star Dolph Lundgren reveals 8-year cancer battle. Doctors said he had 2-3 years left to use. See, that's a long title right there.
Yeah.
Welcome, Horizon Talker. Okay. But then this comes from Variety.
Yep.
Dolph Lundgren revealed for the first time during an interview in the In Depth with Graham Bensinger that he's been privately battling cancer on and off for the last 8 years. Doctors first discovered and removed a cancerous tumor on the actor's kidney in 2015. Then I did scans every 6 months. Then you do it every year, and it was fine, For 5 years, Lundgren says, in 2020, I was back in Sweden and had some kind of acid reflux where I didn't know what it was. So I did an MRI, and they found there was a few more tumors around the area. I have personal family experience with family where they got cancer, and that's how it is. Sometimes you think you're out of it and you're good for another 5 years, and then it creeps back. It's awful. It's just awful. Lundgren said 6 more tumors were discovered at the time, one of them which grown too large to remove, so he had to start a systemic therapy. More tumors were discovered in the fall of 2021 when Lundgren arrived in London to film the sequels to his Aquaman and the Expendables franchises. We realized it was a lot worse than we thought, Lundgren said. The doctor started talking about all these different tumors, like in the lung and the stomach and the spine outside the kidneys. He started saying these things like, you should probably take a break and spend more time with your family and so forth. I asked him, how long do you think I've got left? He said 2 or 3 years, but I could tell in his voice he probably thought it was less. Lundgren eventually got a second opinion from a doctor in London who discovered that his kidney cancer was mutating more like lung cancer. The doctor overhauled the actor's treatment to approach it as if his cancer was lung cancer. If I had gone on the other treatment, I'd have about 3 or 4 months left, Lundgren said. After adding that the new treatment started shrinking his tumors by around 20%, 30% within a 3-month period. 2022 was basically watching these medications do their thing, Lundgren continued. Finally, things had shrunk to about 90%. Now I'm in the process of taking out the remaining scar tissue in those tumors. The prognosis is that hopefully when they take these out, there's no cancer activity, and the medication that I'm taking is going to suppress everything else. Lundgren is reprising his DC role of King Nereus in Warner Brothers' Aquaman and Lost Kingdom, opening in theaters December 20th. He's also reprising his character of Gunnar Jensen for a fourth time in Expendables 4, opening September 22nd from Lionsgate. So yeah, I wish him the best. Cancer sucks, and I hope he's getting through it. That's
it absolutely
rough.
does. It sounds like, and this is what I think a lot of people don't understand about cancer, and you usually don't think much about it until you have to, specifically address it. But we talk about scientists looking for a cure for cancer. The problem is cancer is a very broad.
Yep.
Thing, and every kind of cancer is different. Some are very treatable, some are very much not.
No.
They all behave differently. It sounds
some doctors have not seen before.
Right.
Is what I ran into with my family member.
And it sounds like in this particular case, he had a doctor who recognized, well, if you treat it the way they normally do, you probably only have 2 years. But if you treat it like this, maybe, and it turned out a different treatment was the option. That's why your second, third, fourth opinion is always at least worth, hearing. But and I'd have to say too, have you seen this guy? A lot of these action heroes from the 80s have held up pretty darn well. They've kept themselves pretty darn healthy. And that's another big thing for dealing with an illness, is to be coming from a place of strength to begin with. I had no idea he was even sick until I saw this article. So, he's been doing something right all these years, and that probably put him in the best position he could probably be in to deal with this. He's a fighter, man, right? I mean, regardless of the fact that he's an actor and that he played a fighter, he really is a fighter.
Yeah, and like I said, wish him the best. I heard he's recently engaged too, so I wish him well with that as well. So
I've also heard, if you've only ever seen him in Rocky 4, he's not Ivan Drago. He's
in real
everything
life,
I've heard, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he like played the villain in the Universal Soldier 2 with Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he's been in other movies where he was the good guy. Remember I Come in Peace?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
He's actually a very smart guy too. He has like advanced degrees in chemistry, I think.
Yes, he does. I was going to mention that too. He's like he himself is a scientist. He is not like the
he's almost like a real life Buckaroo Banzai in some respects.
In a lot of ways, yeah. He you think actor and you think okay, well, he's just an actor. No. Yeah, well, actually, you mentioned Buckaroo Banzai. What's the actor's name?
Peter Weller.
Peter Weller. Peter Weller left acting because, he's actually a really smart guy too, and he went on to, do what he really wanted to be doing. So
he has had a resurgence in recent years, though. He crops up now and then on stuff, though.
Yeah.
In fact, in the animated Dark Knight Returns movie, he's the voice of Batman in that.
Oh, Big Al's reminded. Yes, I had forgotten. He also played the live action
He-Man. Oh my goodness, I forgot all about that. You're right.
That is right.
Yes. An underrated movie, definitely. Frank Langella is very good in that too. It's
Connie, I'm sorry to hear about your mom with the bladder cancer. I know that's terrible. We lost my brother-in-law. His was undiagnosed, so he didn't even receive treatment for it.
And my father had cancer too. It's awful. This
is what they say. If nothing else gets you, eventually a cancer will.
Yeah. That's what they say. It's terrifying. Like I said,
what's almost as terrifying is if they do find, they won't find a universal treatment for cancer, but as they find more and more ways to deal with more and more cancers, that's where you start getting close to, well, now you're no longer, just treating a disease. You're literally treating death as a disease itself. And at some point, you might just be creating immortal humans. Well, that's a story for another time.
Isn't that what medical science, though, is trying to do? Are they trying to stave off death? Isn't that usually what they're...
maybe
not strictly, but...
It always had been. And then there got to a point where as you start to get the increased longevity, and you start to see that people are, yes, living longer, but now you're starting to see things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's,
Right.
cancer, and so forth. You start going, well, is it really that we want people to live longer? There's also a quality of life. So now,
Yeah.
as you get older, they start saying, do you want to go through this treatment? Is it,
You know what's interesting? In like the anime series Ghost in the Shell or whatever, there was people in the future can become cyborgs. They can get artificial bodies.
Sure.
They can get their brains put in the artificial body. They can, get sensory things so they feel like a person again. So,
Yeah.
like if they eat a sandwich, there'll be nanites in to make them think they're eating an actual sandwich, or they'll feel other things. So their brain doesn't go nuts by thinking I'm in this autonomous body. But even with all that advanced technology and the fact that they probably live forever, there are new diseases that form from being a cyborg that they have to treat now. Yep. Nothing stops. I just thought that was interesting. There was
who wants to live forever?
Usually bad people do.
Why are we getting off on all of these crazy tangents?
I don't know. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, so we were just talking about Aquaman 2. Let's get back to some more Zack Snyder.
Well, it's still the Snyderverse because Aquaman. Lundgren plays Mira's father in those movies.
Right.
Yeah. It was kind of funny seeing him in them. Like, who is that? I know that Dolph Lundgren.
Right, you're looking, you're going, I know that guy.
I know
what
him.
have I seen him in before?
I was watching some movie with Liam Neeson last night, and he ran into his uncle or something. Like, who is that? Who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's Nick Nolte. He just looks like Santa Claus now.
Oh my gosh!
All right, but yeah, here we go. Zack Snyder shares Superman idea that couldn't use because it broke the studio's minds. Let's read what could have been, huh?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyone who watched the 4-hour cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League,
is insane. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't judge it. But
I haven't seen the first one, so I'm definitely.
I saw the first one. That's why I didn't see his version. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Oh man, why DC? Why can't you just get it right, please? Okay, let's move on. Okay, anyone who watched the 4-hour cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the one that his fans had to fight in order to get released, knows that Snyder would have explored the rich history of DC Universe, going back as to show Darkseid, Steppenwolf, and the old gods battling over the mother boxes, the anti-life equation. Snyder explained chunks of this when his trailer for the Snyder Cut was released, because you can now watch the movie in full with an HBO Max subscription. You can also buy it if you so want to. But as we learned recently during the SnyderCon event at Pasadena, there was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of things Snyder and his collaborators discussed, but the studio wouldn't allow it. SnyderCon was a 3-day event held for fans that screened 3 DC movies that Zack Snyder made for Warner Brothers. We even included them on our list of Snyder films ranked. After each screening, fans got the chance to ask Snyder questions about the making of the films following the screening of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. One fan brought up the long-standing rumor regarding an open pod bay in the scout ship that brought baby Kal-El to Earth. Some say that it might have belonged to Kara Zor-El, a.k.a. Clark's cousin. Snyder, however, wanted to connect that backstory to the gods. While doling out details about the scout ship and that open pod, Snyder and his visual effects artist, DJ Just Desjardins, confirmed that they wanted to eventually reveal that the Kryptonian ship would trace back to the gods and that Ares and Zeus would have come from a Kryptonian lineage, as Snyder explained. In this whole thing with like the gods and Ares and Zeus and whether or not Zeus was really possibly a Kryptonian, so that Wonder Woman's powers, anyway, you can sort of see where that's going. Because, the whole thing of like whether or not magic and the gods, there's a version where like, okay, that's cool, I guess. But there's also the more scientific, you have a mythology built up of where do gods come from? What is that about? And so anyways, we had played around with that quite a bit. The duo also hinted that Ares, the god of war, who became a major antagonist in the first Wonder Woman movie, was the first one that caused Kal-El's scout ship to crash on Earth in the first place. That's a serious game changer. You can spot the open pod the moment that Henry Cavill first confronts his father, Russell Crowe, in Man of Steel. In this scene, some fans already are arguing about the decision by Zack Snyder, even though he never got to include it in his finished cut of the movie. Snyder put a lot of thought into mythology behind his DC movies, even though the studio apparently had rules about what he could and could not include because they didn't want him to mess with the expanding story that they were trying to tell. Even though all of that has been scrapped and James Gunn is starting from scratch. Keep up. Okay, so what do you think?
Okay, I may surprise you. I may surprise you
Oh my
with
goodness.
my hot take on
Okay.
this.
Yes.
Although I don't believe that Zack Snyder had the capability to pull it off, it's not a horrible idea.
What?
No, here's why. Listen, hear me out.
Okay.
When you think about the lore of the DC universe in the comics, right? You have these very disjointed, if you go back to National Comics, right? Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they were all their own separate thing initially. And the history of DC is taking all their properties, throwing them into the same universe, acquiring more properties, throwing them into that universe, more and more and more,
Yes.
then updating and then
From
updating.
comic book lines they buy and everything, yeah.
And it becomes a mess. They aren't very well woven. Now the same is true over at Marvel, right? And things don't really always fit together. And you got the same villain for two different heroes, but the stories don't really always go well together. And so and there's a lot of lore that you lose. So the Marvel side decided to do their Ultimates universe, which I have some problems with too, but I did like the idea of going back to basics and kind of streamlining it. Right. In a way, DC kind of did the same thing in the 80s with their Crisis on Infinite Earths, but then they kept picking at loose threads of that tapestry and began unraveling it over time. This was a great opportunity for them to kind of do the same thing and start looking at, and DC already has this idea of where do superpowers come from. Well, sometimes in DC they don't have mutants; they have people with a metagene, right? But that's basically mutants, right? Something happens to you, this gene asserts itself, and you gain a power that saves you, and now you're a superhero, right? Or you're an alien, or you are, like he said, the gods, right? Because you got the Atlanteans and Poseidon and all this kind of stuff, which implies a connection to the Greek gods and, of course, Wonder Woman and all that kind of stuff. But you get into the Kirby stuff with Darkseid and New Genesis and so forth, and you start to find out that Darkseid and the new gods are these beings in the universe that are kind of similar and on the same par of people like Zeus and Poseidon and whatnot. So you start to see this community of gods, right? With whether it's Darkseid or Allfather or Zeus or the Guardians of Oa, the Green Lanterns.
Right.
Okay. They're all peers, so to speak, right? And who's missing from that table? The Kryptonians. The Kryptonians are considered to be peers on that level, but they are isolationist. Why are they isolationists? Well, because when they go to other planets, sometimes they become even more powerful, and it causes all kinds of problems. They get this kind of prime directive-y kind of concept. And there's a taboo against, and that gets into a lot of other Kryptonian lore with the Daxamites, who are supposed to be like an offshoot of the Kryptonians. But they are isolated for an entirely different reason. They have a genetic disorder that makes a very common element in the universe poisonous to them. So they almost never leave their home system, and the Kryptonians don't for their own reasons. So the idea of sending Kal-El to Earth is foreboding because it goes against a whole bunch of things that the Kryptonians have a problem with. So it's not a bad idea to kind of tie together this idea of the Kryptonians and the Greek gods, and so in a way you could say that perhaps Diana and Arthur Curry are maybe the descendants of descendants who are an offshoot from the Kryptonians. Going far enough back, that's fine. It's a great idea, but I don't believe Zack Snyder could pull it off. I don't have a lot of faith in anyone in Hollywood right now to do that kind of thing.
Well, I don't have faith that Warner Brothers can right the ship at DC. We'll see what happens, though. I mean,
we don't have a Marv Wolfman in comics anymore, or a John Byrne, or someone like that who could craft these kind of, reimaginings of the histories. So I'm not going to dismiss the idea out of hand. I'm just going to say, because I've seen what he actually did do, and I'm like, if that's what you did. You got great ideas. You don't know how to carry them out, dude.
Mr. Matzik, welcome to the chat.
Yep,
what is Lead Scene saying here? Snyder needs to take 5 years off, go to film school, graduate, retake those classes, graduate, take 5 years off, then be an assistant or a DP on other directors' films, then return to directing. Ouch.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, film school. You're absolutely right with that. I don't dispute that, but I'm not sure if that would even work. I think he's also got, unfortunately, he's got enough of a following that blows smoke up his ass that has him believe in who the hell he is. That's another big problem. He's too full of himself to get his shit together.
All right, let's move on. What could have been the road not taken?
Yep. So a little bit more along the Warner Brothers DC, well, not DC, but the Warner Brothers line. As long as we're talking about the Warner Brothers, let's talk about the head of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav.
Yes, we got more on this strike stuff. Former TV executive weighs in on writer strike.
No. Let's. I thought we'd do
posted the wrong thing.
Did I? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
What are you doing
folks.
to me?
I'm screwing them up, man. I don't know.
You're having an Appletini over there, or not a food show? I'm sorry.
Well, it's kind of like an Appletini. Actually, this one I can get in one shot. I think. There we go. Sorry about that, guys.
Website instead of another site, which I'll be ranting about in a few minutes.
Right.
Let's. Okay. Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders slam CEO David Zaslav's compensation and say on pay vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. We got stockholders have expressed serious displeasure with 2022 executive compensation at Warner Brothers Discovery, led by CEO David Zaslav, according to the result of a vote at the annual meeting Monday that was filed with the SEC today. The so-called stay-on-pay vote saw nearly half of all votes cast coming out against last year's comp, which was ratified with just over 50% approval. The votes are advisory only, meaning they are non-binding, but they do have an impact. Most public companies get over 90% approval. Anything under 70% is considered pretty dismal. In the case of a higher percentage of votes against, management will often engage with shareholders and try to tweak things for the following year. In this case, 2023. Netflix, Disney under Bob Iger's previous tenure, and others have faced shareholder dissent. Warner Brothers Discovery's annual meeting was virtual and only accessible to Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders. According to today's filing, there was a very close 770.6 million votes against 2022 pay, with 795.3 million voting to ratify. Companies lay out compensation policies and pay numbers for their top 5 highest remunerated. Okay. Wait. Did they spell it wrong? Remunerated. That sounds better.
Remunerated.
What is that? Remunerated?
Yes.
I think I learned a new word today. Remunerate.
Yes.
Remunerated. I'm going to look that up later. Remunerated executives in proxy statements filed with the SEC early each year for the year before. CEO pay makes the headlines. Many CEOs in particular these days, as writer strikes in large part for better pay and layoffs continue across the entertainment industry, where chief executives are extremely well-paid groups. Zasla's compensation for 2022 totaled nearly $39.3 million. The year before, in 2021, the figure was $246 million, swelled by a large option grant. Equity awards often vest over time, as that grant did, and only if the stock hits certain levels. For 2022, Zaslav had a base salary of $3 million. Stock and options awards, and respectively $1.2 million and $1.4 million, and non-equity incentive plan compensation, like a cash bonus of $21 million. Public companies have been required to hold say-on-pay votes since 2010 under the Dodd-Frank Act. Most hold one every year. Legacy Discovery, which merged Warner Brothers in April 2022, held say-on-pay votes for every 3 years, but will now move to an annual vote as well. ISS, an influential shareholders advisory service, recommended a vote against WBD's compensation in a report last month. It's a bit technical, as is the science and art of executive pay, but says a vote against this proposal is warranted. The CEO's employment agreement was recently materially amended and maintains a problematic severance arrangement. In addition, the CEO's annual bonus and target bonus opportunity remain outsized. Annual equity grant continue to utilize a short performance period, and disclosure of strategic goal targets and performance under both annual and long-term incentive programs is lacking, the ISS said. Though some positive changes were made in response to shareholder feedback, some changes appear to be merely incremental improvements, which will be further analyzed in next year's report. Earlier this year, Warner Brothers Discovery announced that part of Zasla's compensation will now be linked to free cash flow. So let me try to translate this mouthful of Greek salad here.
And by the way, because we kind of glossed over it, just for those that might be a little confused, remuneration just means getting paid for doing work. That's really all it means.
Okay. Pay me.
Yeah, what is my pay? What is my compensation? What is my remuneration?
I remember we did the Goodfellas stream with you and Paulie from Latino Slant, and they got to the part where it's like, was it, fuck you, pay me? Remember that?
Fuck you, pay me. Yeah, exactly.
And I kept saying, yeah, but I had an emergency and my dog had to go to the vet. What did you say?
Pay me. Yeah.
But you don't understand, my kid, and it's like.
And that's really what all this comes down to. I think you got it right on.
Yeah, but here's what's going on. He's taking too much money for is that what's going on here? He's getting paid too much for not providing the results the shareholders wanted. Is that what I'm getting the gist of here?
Yeah, I mean that's what is implied.
We don't know. Yeah.
Now here's a couple things that I want to point out, okay? All that talk about, percentage votes and non-binding and, this, that, and the other. The vote was taken, and it sends a message. I don't care if it's only 51%. 51% still passed it. 51% were still okay with it. That might not be great. That might not be a lot. That's not a landslide. But enough people are happy with it. Why might people not be happy? Well, the article barely touched on it, but in the headline, they talk about the WGA strike and this and that. So the first thing it tells me is, okay, we got some people that are sympathizing with, writers and so forth and blah, 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 blah. Little bit of the, commie socialist kind of talk going on here. But we're also talking about an industry, and that does relate to where the strike is and really where the whole industry is, coming out of all this pandemic stuff and all the stupidity that has really destroyed this industry over the past 5 years or so. And not to mention all the, DIE, initiatives and quota systems and bull crap that people are, that viewers, that the customers, the audience are all rebelling against, which is killing this business. So you look at the leadership of these companies, right? You look at Iger, then Chapek, then Iger over at Disney.
Yep.
You look at Zaslav at Warner Brothers. You look at all the other Yahoos at all the other companies, and you go, okay, who's going to get us through this? Who's going to get us the most profit that we can get?
Get us in the black, right? That's what they
exactly.
Call it, right? Yeah.
Well, who's been successful? Okay? Chapek actually was suggesting these same initiatives over at Disney, and where to get him? He's gone, right? Because that went against the strategy that Disney clearly wants, and that's to destroy the damn business and run it into the ground. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Keep infusing us with that BlackRock money, so that we can keep pushing our ideology and change the world by, doing things to children and changing the their mindsets going forward, so they all walk in goose step with us, and take themselves out of the gene pool because we need less people in the world. That's what these kinds of people are pushing over there at Disney, right? Then you got over here Zaslav, who's actually going, okay, we're done with this. We're going to do whatever it takes to be profitable. Okay? He's one of the few in the industry who's actually doing that.
Yes.
And this is what I always say about, executives. When you write yourself a big check, are you backing it up by earning it? Because if you are, good for you. And, at least 51% of people that were voting on this initiative say, yeah, he's the best that we got going. We want him to keep going.
Okay.
That's how I'm interpreting it.
He's doing some correct things. I think the idea of doing the Harry Potter TV series, when I found out it was a TV series, I think that's smart.
And what's the undertone to that?
Yeah.
I see this as being profitable, so I'm going to do it, despite all the bullshit about J.K. Rowling and the blue-haired weirdos bitching about it. Yeah. Because I'm doing it not for points, not for, notoriety, not for, virtue signaling, because I'm trying to make you guys profit.
Yeah.
And at least 51% of the people that voted on it recognize that. Right? Real quick, want to say hi to Gorilla Random Thought.
Yes, welcome,
who just
welcome.
Jumped in. So good to see you, my friend.
I have to say, though, they have to get DC under control. Because I still feel like they're all over the place with DC. I know they're trying to get a mainline MCU-style DC universe going. We still have CW shows like Gotham Knights. Like I think Gotham Knights. There's a new CW show with another Batman-related show.
Yeah.
Why do they keep?
I don't have a great deal of insight on this. People like Midnight's Edge and whatnot might have more to say about it. My understanding, my impression, based on almost nothing, is that these CW shows and things like that are legacy. They're basically legacy.
It's contracts. Yeah.
Contracts that have momentum behind them. They have to fulfill, which is the same thing that you're seeing with the what do you call it? The Flash movie and everything else they're throwing out there. It's like, well, we filmed them, we've done them, we're contracted to do them, we got to get them out there. But now we're going to go in a different direction.
We're still getting that animated Batman series from Bruce Timm and what's his name, the mystery box guy.
And Abrams. This is what I keep telling everybody.
It's coming to Amazon. It's just not coming to HBO because Amazon are the ones they're going to fund it.
Right. And I keep telling people, if it's an animated series, it's not canon to their cinematic universe. It just isn't. Despite the fact that some of the animated features that we've watched over on Mr. Mastic's channel, actually would be just fine as live action features or part of a live action shared universe or whatever. But, it's just not.
Do you think that Amazon is funding that Batman animated cartoon because they're trying to get back at Warner Brothers for doing the more Lord of the Rings feature films that now oppose their Rings of Power series?
Not where I thought you were going to go with that. Here's
Yeah,
another possibility.
interesting. Okay.
There's been speculation that the whole James Gunn thing with DC is not to reboot the DC universe the way most people assume, but rather the equivalent of a sizzle reel. We have these properties. This is what we can do with them. How would you like to buy them?
And what, Warner Bros. Would sell DC off to somebody else?
Yeah, and maybe Amazon is angling to buy it. This is speculation based on almost nothing. Okay, so don't go running and saying, I heard a rumor or some sources or not. It's just this goofy Italian guy,
But then what is Warner Brothers left with? I mean,
I don't know.
Would they sell Harry Potter to Universal then? I didn't even think about that.
No, I don't think that's going to be happening. No,
because Universal would love to snap that up.
Because look, in other words, it's like, yes, we have this valuable property that would be valuable for someone to buy, but would be too costly for us to develop. You want to develop it? Go ahead and buy it. It's like I've got this classic car that needs to be restored. I don't want to put the effort into restoring it, but if you want to buy it off me for the value of the car, go right ahead.
Or it's almost like you're remodeling the house to flip it on the market.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, that's actually another good analogy. Sure. But the Harry Potter, that one's already peak. It's already
gold, yeah.
They're already good with that. It's like, what more can we do with it? Let's just do more with it, and we'll just keep making money off of it.
Hollywood. Okay, let's go to the next article.
Oh, sorry, I was just taking a drink, so give me a second.
Actually, you already pasted it. Let me go back.
Well, I know, but now I got to do it again because
I'll go back up. It's a difficult one for you. Here we go. I'll just use what you already said.
Well, but we gotta put it where.
Well, then just put it wherever. Then
I'm trying because we want the audience to be able to reference the articles that we're looking at.
I'd also like to we do like Call Me Chato, right? Or Chato.
Oh, absolutely. Sure, he's good. He's funny. He's funny. Even when I disagree with him, at least the things he says, he puts in such a humorous way.
And we have Bounty in the comics with their addresses that go on for 10 pages.
Yeah, it's like they put the whole paragraph into their webpage address.
Honestly. All right. Let's move on. Okay, former television executive Paul Chato recently shared his thoughts on the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike and how he believes the union and its members will lose when it comes to AI-generated scripts. All right. The Writers Guild of America official website notes that one of the reasons they are striking is artificial intelligence. The Writers Guild claims as part of their deal they want to regulate use of artificial intelligence on MBA covered projects. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train AI. In response to the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, countered by offering annual meetings to discuss advancement in the technology. So they don't really want to budge on this. Their consolidation is we can have meetings about it incrementally, I guess. In recent video upload, Chato noted that WGA will more than likely lose this demand as part of their negotiations. He states, first of all, if I were a studio head, it would be business insanity to negotiate away the option of using scripts generated by AI. He went on to explain, I'm a creative. I write scripts. No, I'm not a trader. Why would I be saying this? I'm putting myself in the position of the studios. I don't see how the WGA will be able to win this, and I hate to say it, but it's partially the fault of the quality of programs that are being produced now. Now, I'm not blaming the writers or the producers or both, but the Hollywood Reporter has a story where I asked ChatGPT to write a 30 Rock script, and to all my fellow writers, I hate to tell you, it had the shape and sound of a 30 Rock script. What it was missing were the lines specifically crafted to the character and jokes. He elaborated, now you're saying, okay, that's the whole thing. But I didn't find 30 Rock particularly funny. But based on the sample presented, I could easily see a chat GPT drama or action adventure script which doesn't need jokes, which would then be massaged by the head writer. Maybe there will be a whole new category, AI Wrangler. Scary times. He continued, Amazon Citadel is dreadful. Could ChatGPT have written something just as bad? Quite likely, if the show becomes a hit because the audience's standards have become so depressed due to the truckload of second-rate dialogue and plots they are being fed, why not go AI? Shadow then provided another example. Another example would be the much maligned counterfeit Tolkien adventure, Rings of Power. I asked ChatGPT to generate a scene where Bilbo and Gollum became friends. I know Rings of Power can't use them. Bear with me. It actually made sense. It was even clever enough to have Gollum tell Bilbo, I'll be your friend if you give me my precious back. ChatGPT knew the lore certainly better than the hack writers on the Rings of Power, he added.
Yeah.
And think about this. New writers are bereft of historical knowledge like never before, he points out.
Yep.
Producers could ask for a script in the style of the Blackboard Jungle, and AI would crank it out in time. It took your Gen Z writer to ask, what's the Blackboard Jungle?
Exactly.
As I said earlier, if AI takes a foothold in the scripting realm, it's going to be because of some of the terrible shows we are seeing now. It's the ability to research historical instantly. For network series, it would be even worse if a season is already produced and the AI was pointed at it and told them to write a new season based on the first with a bunch of new plots. However, he does note that there is any area where AI will never succeed. Where AI will never succeed, at least not anytime soon, is the first idea of fantastic imagination.
Yeah. Yeah.
There will always be a need for that, unless, of course, the audience prefers the repetitive results of AI. What's more repetitive than a procedural? Hey, come on, CSI. What are you talking about?
Well,
You used to watch NCIS.
yeah, absolutely. Great
That's a
show.
procedural.
But again, that's another one that, yes, the overall plots are, repetitive, but the character development is what you're really watching it for. You fall in love with those characters,
What is it? If I would put the writers of She-Hulk out of work, I'd be up for that again, is the thing saying. This whole thing with the AI. I have trepidations about this.
Sure. But we also have to
I watched the thing of Will Smith eating spaghetti that was made by an AI computer. It was on YouTube. It looked bizarre. I didn't like it.
There's two things that you need to set aside. And first is your misconceptions and biases about AI. It's a tool. It is a tool. It exists, and it's being used. Right tool for the right job, and I think a lot of times it's being used wrong, and people kind of respond negatively to that. The same thing is true with CG animation and augmentation in films, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is this idea, and this is a tiny area where I would disagree with Paul Chato. He says but he does correct himself. He starts to say it'll never be able to do this, and then he backs off. He says, "Well, no time soon." Yeah, don't get into it will never say never, right? Because there's a lot of nevers people have said throughout history only to be proven wrong, right? We can look at the past 5 years and say things that we believed would never happen in this country that are happening way too frickin' often. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
I want to welcome Leia Rose, who just popped in. She is wonderful, and I always love seeing her here.
Welcome.
But yeah, so those are the things I would caution against. But look, especially when you start having this conversation in terms of the WGA strike, right? Any kind of strike, labor strike. And again, I am not going to ever say anything against the concept of collective bargaining, right? Everybody who is employed by an employer, who gets paid, who receives remuneration, ding, there's that word again, has to go and negotiate. And you have to decide if you are willing to continue doing this job for this compensation package. If not, you either have to be ready to walk, or convince them to pay you more. And sometimes when a big group of employees do it together, that's what collective bargaining is. That's entirely fair, okay? But you must keep in mind that you have to be ready to leave that job and never go back and find yourself a new job if that's how hard you're going to push it. And you've got to have reasonable expectations about where the other side is, okay? Because look at what happened to the state of Michigan. Michigan used to be where all the cars in the United States were made. The auto industry. Detroit, yes, right? And what happened? They said, you know what? We're not making enough money. We are going to walk. And the industry said, we can't afford to pay you that. We will lose money. Well, then you're going to lose money. They said, no, we're not. We're going to leave. And they picked up their industry and they went overseas. And all those people ended up out of work. That's what ends up happening. You can only push so hard and then you lose it all, right? Any gambler will tell you that. When you're on a winning streak, at some point you got to say diminishing loss, maybe I should cut my losses. Nope, I'm going to bet it all. Well, guess what? Now you got nothing, You
need to watch the movie Uncut Gems.
Yeah, this is like the third time I've heard about it tonight.
I'm sorry, I mentioned on Deleted Scene stream. There's the Adam Sandler character in that I'd say he has a gambling problem, but that might be an understatement.
No, I'll definitely be checking it out.
Oh,
it comes so highly recommended.
Okay, but there's what you were saying happens in that movie about there are times when you have to say no. Same
thing you're seeing with they keep pushing and it's the same argument that you get with the whole raise the minimum wage. Well, eventually you raise the minimum wage to the point that either the company's going to close or they're going to automate. And we all said this. It's like you want to keep pushing for $10, $15, $20 minimum wage. And eventually McDonald's says, okay, we're done. I'm firing all of you. And people can come in and put their own order in. And that's exactly what's happening now. It's happening at the grocery store. Netter and I went out shopping yesterday. Admittedly, the store was a little slow. But there were no checkers at the checkout aisle. There was one guy standing by the self checkout.
Yep.
He's like, I don't know, we're shorthanded today. It's just me. Now that was fine because he still checked us out, but he checked us out through the self checkout because I won't do it. I will not check myself out. If I go into a store, you better check me out. Otherwise, you better give me a discount and pay me as an employee for doing your job for you. Yeah. Or why should I even bother going into the store? I'll just order it offline. And then all of y'all are going to be out of work. See, this is what you have to understand. And the same thing, this is what the WGA is starting to see. They're realizing you might automate me out. Yes, we might. The only way you can compete is you got to be better than the robot. And lately, y'all haven't been. And this is something else that I don't think they mentioned in the article, but I did drop Paul Chatto's YouTube channel. If this is something that interests you, go check out his videos where he talks about some of this. He has said the exact same thing that I've said on this channel. It's not that AI is so good at writing like a human being. It's that the human beings that have been writing in the entertainment industry are writing like robots.
And if people are writing like robots, why don't they just put the robots to work?
Exactly. And so the idea of, you're all going to be out of work except maybe one guy who's going to massage the work done by the AI, how is that any different than, going into Taco Bell, entering your order on the thing, and you got one person back there, there to help you if you screw it up or you order something you didn't mean to or whatever. And everyone else is there just making your food and handing it to you.
Let me see
So yeah,
here.
this is the way things are going to be going. You better make yourself valuable. And there's a character that I was just thinking recently from American mythology that people need to learn their history and refresh themselves on. Anyone ever heard of John Henry? Not talking about John Henry Irons, Steel from Superman, who absolutely was inspired by the real legend of John Henry from American history. He was a railroad worker.
Yes.
And back then it was all done by hand, and the story goes that someone came along with a steam engine that could lay track faster. And they had a competition between the machine and the man, who could dig through the mountain the fastest. And John Henry picked up 2 sledgehammers, one in each hand, because he was such a big guy. And he just started pounding his way through the mountain. And he actually beat the steam engine and then fell down dead. He gave his life to show that a human being could still do it better, but just barely. But the fact is, progress continues, and unless the humans improve, eventually those machines are going to get better and better and better. And let's face it, to this day, now that kind of industry is not automated, but it has bigger machines, and people had to put down their hammers and start learning how to drive the tractors and the ground haulers and so on and so forth. And that is progress.
Yeah, but this is still an art.
Yes, so make it an art. Show that you can produce the art. Be John Henry Irons.
All right.
Be John Henry. I did it too. I went down the Superman route too. Never mind that. Be John Henry and show that you can do it as well or better than the machine. Probably won't kill you. But that's what it seems like some of these snowflakes are. Oh, I can't. I gotta get my representation in there, and I gotta signal my virtue. Well, okay, a machine can do that too. We don't need you.
All right.
But if you are the writer who can write a story that makes people cry, makes people excited, makes people mad, makes people laugh, that is worth the money you're asking for. From what I've been hearing, apparently, bringing him up again, James Gunn is apparently that person. Because I've heard some great things about this last Guardians of the Galaxy movie, specifically the emotion and the crying and the... Okay, the person I heard it from was Nathan Fillion, but still...
Well, no, but my feeling with that last Guardians, that's probably the last traditional MCU movie you see, because Gunn did the last two. It was probably still separated enough from all the other BS. I don't think going forward, though, they're going to meet that kind of success.
But
I think it's still underperformed, even though it was probably a better movie.
Well, I'm hearing that it's got some legs. Apparently, it did pretty good this weekend.
All right.
I don't have an article for you on that, and I haven't really dug into it, but we'll talk about that some other day.
Fast 10 is coming out though, so it's going to knock it out of the water.
And I do like what Mr. Matchstick said. He's trying to help me out with my little flub there. He says, "Be John Henry and John Henry Irons." Okay, that's fair. There's no reason you can't be both. Okay.
John Henry Irons. Oh, yeah. Steel.
Right. Steel.
Played
or
by
Shaquille O'Neal, depending on how you look at it, right?
How bad was the Steel movie?
It wasn't bad. I mean, it was very low budget.
It was passable.
And Shaquille O'Neal is not an actor. And what special effects and costuming there was CW level, But and it was during the peas and carrots era, so there can't be any reference to Superman, which really detaches the character from his origins. But it's still a pretty good story.
All right.
It was a decent, considering what it was his passion project. I admire the hell out of Shaquille O'Neill for
We're just
making it
making it.
happen. You
Okay.
know?
So speaking of people you don't admire,
Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah.
this is a long one.
It is, and I'm going to take this opportunity to step away while you're going to be reading the article.
Oh, well, this is a shorter one, but yeah, well, the longer
Okay,
one
I'll be
happens
right
after
back.
this, but we'll just go ahead and get into it.
Okay.
Disney sheds 4 million subscribers and second straight quarterly drop. Streaming losses narrow by 26%. All right, let's get to it. Disney Plus shed another 4 million subscribers in the first 3 months of 2023, marking the streamer's second consecutive quarterly drop after closing 2022 with its first ever decline. On the bright side, the Mouse House has also managed to narrow its streaming business losses by 400 million, down 26% year over year. On Wednesday, CEO Bob Iger and co. beat Wall Street estimates for Disney's quarterly earnings and revenue due to an impressive January to March showing at the company's theme parks. That win comes during a fiscal quarter two, which concluded April 1st, plagued by company-wide layoffs, a looming and now active writers' strike, and a turf war with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Disney ended the quarter with 157.8 million subscribers at Disney Plus, significantly missing Wall Street's estimate of 163.17 million subs. That projected figure would have been up for the 161.8 million subs Disney Plus fell to the prior quarter. During Disney's earnings call with analysts later Wednesday, Iger, who returned to his post as CEO last fall upon the ousting of Bob Chapek, announced that Hulu content will be introduced on Disney Plus later this year in a quote-unquote one-app experience. Also on the call, CFO Christine McCarthy announced that Disney is in the process of reviewing the content on our DTC services to align with the strategic changes in our approach to content curation, and will be removing certain content from our streaming platforms. According to McCarthy, Disney expects a write-down in quarter three of 1.5 to 1.8 billion from removing the content. McCarthy also said, going forward, we intend to produce lower volumes of content in alignment with this strategic shift. The content spending cuts will hit primarily in 2004 because so much has already been committed this year. So I'll try to explain some of this article to you. Basically, when she's talking about content curation, this is like if you had your own movie library and you decided to put, that Police Academy 1 and 2 were classics, but Police Academy 3, we can just toss that one out. That's what content curation means. You're just going to put the best of the best. Or in Disney's case, I don't know what they mean by content curation. Hey, what do you think, Troy? Content curation, in other words, they're taking stuff off the platforms.
Yeah, they're basically looking at, okay, this is stuff that's going to actually make me money, and this is the stuff that we consider problematic and we don't want you to consume anymore.
Or the stuff where maybe we have to pay a certain actor a lot of money to show it,
or writers, or
maybe
any other talent. That's another big problem with Disney, where they want to. This is a big reason why you get a lot of the changes. They change the storyline, they change the appearance, they change whatever, so as not to have to pay royalties back to some other creative.
Okay,
which is another thing the WGA is complaining about right now, and I'd say more rightly so. They should probably focus on that stuff a little bit more.
So how long before the first 6 Star Wars movies are removed from Disney Plus and just the sequel trilogy remains?
I gotta say, to be honest with you, I don't care. Disney will not receive another dollar from me. I will not pay money for D-. And
what about Daredevil Born Again?
He should just stay dead, to be honest with you. I mean, this is, these characters continuing on Disney, it really is a fate worse than death. I don't want to come back as a zombie. And that's what these franchises have become with the rat in charge.
The rat.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the next article. So basically, the crux of that was they're losing subscribers.
Oh, yeah.
New strategy is, how do we cut costs? We're going to put less stuff on the streaming platforms. Boom. That'll cut costs and boost profit.
And that's going to get people to come to your platform? I don't think so. I don't
Instead of
think
watching
so.
the original Peter Pan, you can watch Peter Pan and Wendy.
Yeah, which nobody has any interest in. Yeah, this is them trying to. Oh, I can't. Even the very shortest way I could put this, I can't put the link in.
Is this another bounding in the comics?
It is.
Just do what you can. The Walt Disney. Okay, there we go. Just longest running superhero RPG on Earth. Yes, hello. Just woke up from a short nap. I'd like to take a nap, but the
Right.
boomer does not rest.
Right.
But actually, if you want to see him, check out Netter's Network. He was on this week for her Thursday stream, and he was also on a Troy stream a couple weeks ago too.
You know what? Here's what I'm gonna. Oh, I can't even do that.
It's bounding in the comics.
It's more than 210 characters for crying out loud.
Then just leave the link off there, and they can deal with it. We got it from Bounding in the Comics. There's
yeah,
the
do
title.
a search on the title.
I'm not that. So listen to me.
Bounding into Comics should really figure out. It's ridiculous.
They should also maybe not get involved when Matt Walsh and Corden are having a fight. Just stay out of it.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, legal analysts and the host of YouTube channel. It's going to take me a little while to get through. I did edit it a bit, but there's some word salad here, so we're going to get through it because Iger is speaking. Legal analyst and the host of YouTube channel Legal Mindset, Andrew Esquire, recently claimed that the Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger's recent comments during the company's Q2 2023 earnings call results webcast have massive implications that include civil law, criminal penalties, billions of dollars at stake, and frankly, trillions of dollars for Walt Disney in the future. You mean the Walt Disney Company. Walt Disney is no longer with us. But during the Walt Disney Company's Q2 2023 earnings call results webcast, Bob Iger was questioned about the Walt Disney Company's ongoing legal battle with the state of Florida over the former Reedy Creek Improvement District. You know, it's interesting. People always say, well, this is making Ron DeSantis look bad. And I don't know if it is or isn't, but this doesn't make Disney look good either. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, absolutely not. This has become a political fight, and no corporation should be weighing into a political fight. No. It is absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, it really only from most analysts, from a political point of view, it only helps Ron DeSantis. It makes him look like a strong leader, standing up to the big businesses, which is kind of interesting, right? Because you always, or at least the left would have you believe that the GOP is all about, crony capitalists and big business and the rich. And it's kind of really not. It's, well, no more than any other, politician is, right?
Do you know what I don't understand? I don't understand why Iger didn't try smoothing things over with Ron DeSantis. He could argue this all happened under Chapek's watch. I was not in the company at the time.
Because you've got to think about it from the point of view of not somebody who's trying to save or build a company. You've got to look at it from the point of view of an egotist who wants to run for president. When you do that, it makes perfect sense.
Well, he's not running this term. He would have announced by now. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. I don't know. Because obviously Biden won't be up even if he does win the nomination, and because he can't be he can't be in for a third term, so there will be more Democratic candidates coming out in years to come. I don't know. Iger said, these are his words: "This is not about special privileges or a level playing field or Disney in any way using its leverage around the state of Florida. But since there's been a lot said about special districts and the arrangement that we had, I want to set the record straight on that too," Iger relayed. He continued, "There's about 2,000 special districts in Florida, and most were established to foster investment and development, and we were one of them. It basically made it easier for us and others, by the way, to do business in Florida, and we built a business that employs, as we've said before, over 75,000 people and attracts tens of millions of people to the state. So while it's easy to say that the Reedy Creek Special District that was established for us over 50 years ago benefited us. It's misleading to not also consider how much Disney benefited the state of Florida, he argued. And also, we're not the only company operating a special district, he states. I mentioned 2000 that Daytona Speedway has one. The Villages, which is a prominent retirement community, and there are countless others. So if the goal here is leveling the playing field, then a uniform application of the law of government oversight of special districts needs to occur or be applied to all special districts. There's also a false narrative that we've been fighting to protect tax breaks as part of this, Iger asserted. But in fact, we're the largest taxpayer in Central Florida, paying over $1.1 billion in state and local taxes last year alone. And we pay more taxes, specifically more real estate taxes, as a result of that special district. And we all know there's no concerted effort to do anything to dismantle what was once called Reedy Creek Special District until we spoke out on the legislation, he opined. So this is plainly a matter of retaliation, while the rest of the Florida special districts continued operating basically as they were. We never wanted, and we certainly never expected to be in the position to defend our business interests in federal court, particularly after having such a terrific relationship with the state as we've had for more than 50 years, he said. All right, so this is Iger on the defensive. I want to reiterate this. This was the impression I got when Chapek did his little, I guess, hostage speech, as they say, that Disney Corporation would interfere with the laws being put on the books in the state of Florida. That's what raised the ire of the governor and other members of the government here. I don't know how serious Chapek was, if he was just saying that to calm the mob that was, telling him he needs to stand up more for whatever they were arguing about. It was about what you taught in the classroom and not teaching certain things about sexuality and other things to children, which seems like a reasonable, thing not to do in schools.
It seems like a reasonable thing to reasonable people, yes.
Yes.
We are not talking about reasonable people, though.
Now, whether or not the Walt Disney Corporation would have actively, I don't know if they would. They may have. It's possible, because the way they're acting now makes me think they would have, actually, because of the fact that they won't let them go. Because Iger had a perfect thing. Look, I think he could have tried smoothing things over. People already liked Iger in the organization. He probably could have talked to the governor. I think DeSantis even said that, I think I overheard a quote that he'd be willing to talk to Iger about this, because I figured it's a new head of Disney now, not Chapek. Nobody liked Chapek, but I don't know. But Iger seems to be doubling down. Anyway, let's move on. There are comments here talking about his quotes. Reacting to Iger's comments specifically about his claim about being retaliated against, Esquire said, Disney was never punished for that. RCID is not Disney. Once again, this is what he keeps doing, Bob Iger, and he's done it once on a previous call, and now he's doing it again. He's saying, they punished us. What did they do to you, Disney? They actually did nothing to Disney directly. Nothing. Okay, they changed the district, but the district isn't Disney. You've had to certify that, Esquire said. So either you're confessing to securities fraud and saying that the entire time you were Disney, so there's a tax fraud, securities fraud, and a bunch of other Florida crimes that have been broken. But that is what you're saying here. But if you're saying that you're RCID, well, yeah, there's going to be issues there. But this is not the worst, and this is not where he digs himself in deeper. Next, Esquire addresses Iger's comments about special...
Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay.
Netter's got stuff going on, I guess.
It's all right. Anyway, next, Esquire addressed Iger's comments about special districts, saying that Iger was using a mainstream media tactic to deflect from the actual issue at hand. Specifically referring to Iger's comments about the other 2,000 special districts, he said, that is correct, but that it's also extraordinarily misleading. He's using a mainstream media tactic here. Yeah, there's 2,000 others, but guess what? None of them had the powers of Reedy Creek, not a single one of them. He explained most of them are like Celebration. They're a community of development districts. And here's the other thing. Most of them are controlled by residents, actual real people, not landowners. Landowners controlled districts are very rare, and when they are, they're usually controlled by either multiple parties or, guess what, state-appointed boards. he then reacted to Iger's comments about the Daytona Speedway and the Villages, saying that right there is the major mess up. He screwed up by mentioning these two districts. One, the Daytona district is not just one company; it's a basket of stakeholders which have a stakehold not just around Daytona Speedway but around the general area. It's not just all controlled by a single entity with a single purpose. There's multiple businesses that benefit from that, not just the Speedway. Second of all, with the Villages, that is probably the worst thing for him to mention, he declared. Now, to be very clear, there are several districts that encompass the Villages. Many of them are controlled by residents, and they're controlled through regular elections like your city or town. But there was one at the center called the Village Center CDD, and it was controlled by one business. He elaborated. And the IRS actually found that they were not a true government and actually required them to refund their bonds to exchange their tax-free bonds for taxable bonds. This was a massive, massive, massive issue in Central Florida. It resulted in 2 decades of litigation. So by citing the Villages, he says, oh yeah, this corrupt example that ended up being called out and exposed for their lives in the Villages, yeah, we're that. That's possibly the worst example. That's like saying you want to be like Stalinist Russia or some sort of failed state.
Yeah.
It's not good. It doesn't work out. Horrible examples, horrible comparisons. The Villages literally littered with issues legally. So by citing that you're actually putting yourself in a camp with them that you do not want to just you don't want to be put into, as Square asserted. Esquire concluded the video reacting to Iger calling for uniform regulation of special districts. He does not understand the law. There is a uniform special district law. It exists. This proves that Disney does not know this area of law. They have no experience in it. Their lawmakers are not talking to them, and they are giving, frankly, Iger bad advice. Special districts are largely uniform, and they either follow Chapter 189 or 190 of the Florida statutes. They typically turn over to landowners, and they have a lot of the same elements. Reedy Creek was the only one with these superpowers, with these ultra super strong powers that pretty much gave it immunity. So this is a bad comparison for Iger. Clearly, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and clearly his attorneys in Disney are still blowing smoke in the wrong direction, and this is going to dig them deeper and deeper, potentially towards criminal and civil liability, he concluded. It sounds like Iger's not ready for prime time.
Yeah, not
when he
really.
comes on these things.
At least as far as business goes, absolutely not. He tries to pull this, Florida has benefited a great deal from our being here. It's not even in the top 21 largest companies in Florida. I'm serious. I kid you not. Disney is not one of the 21 largest companies in Florida. Do you know what number 1 is?
No.
It's a company I've never even heard of. Jabil?
Interesting.
Second is Publix.
Very big grocery store chain in the South.
Yep. Darden Restaurants, Bloomin' Brands, Royal Caribbean, Fresh Del Monte is 6th. Ryder Systems.
Here's the thing.
If Disney left Florida right now, it would be noticed, but Florida would be just fine. The people of Florida would be just fine. So he's very much overestimating his value, or his company's value, to Florida. Secondly, a lot of politicians in the past couple decades have said elections have consequences. Florida has a Republican governor and a Republican legislature voted for by the people. So they're representing their constituents the way the people of Florida want to be represented. There are more people living in Florida than there are working for Disney. So, sorry, Disney, you get the short end of the stick again. You're still on the wrong side of this battle. And finally, as Andrew points out, Reedy Creek is supposed to legally be completely separate from what was called the Reedy Creek Improvement District. If they're not, that's securities fraud. The SEC is going to be knocking on your door, Bob Iger, and you could be doing actual jail time. You personally Bob Iger.
It should
If
be
you want,
interesting.
and again, I'm not a lawyer myself, but if you want to hear from a lawyer who knows this particular area of law very, very well because he practiced this kind of law, developing and understanding these special districts in the state of Florida, Andrew Esquire. And I dropped the link to his YouTube channel where he does more than just is quoted in this article. He's been doing a lot of commentary on this. In fact, he just did one today because after he stopped working on these special districts, the area of law that he went into was the kind of law, it's a real estate area of law dealing with vacation timeshares. And Disney's running into some problems in that area of business as well. And he's got a commentary about that. So I'd say you want real, inside the Beltway information on this kind of stuff. He's the guy to check out, check out that channel. But
Disney thinks it's the end all be all Florida, and it's not anymore. It hasn't been for a while. People used to associate Disney with Florida because of Disney World and all that.
Yep.
And for a while, those were the great parks. There's more to Florida than just the parks, and there's more to the parks than just Disney.
When it comes to parks, people are starting to turn to Universal now.
I'll be blunt. Universal has always been better than Disney. I never like to pick on Disney because
I agree
they were
with
first. They were first. I remember going to Universal Studios for the first time and realizing I had done a full day there, and I still hadn't seen everything. Whereas Disney, you go through the park, and if the lines are reasonable, you get through that park in half a day, and you've seen everything.
And lately, I've been hearing that the lines have been very short because people aren't going to the parks. Look, let me tell you, if you were to go back in time, the argument that Iger's making would be true because before Disney came, okay, they literally developed all of that swampland into what is now Disneyland, right? Or Disney World, excuse me. And the industry that is around Disney did bring a lot of people to Florida. But you know what else brought a lot of people to Florida? What brought more people to Florida than Disney World ever did? Their tax laws. That's why so many people have been retiring to Florida. That's why the property...
No state income tax.
Exactly, no state income tax, right? Although the houses, my understanding, are very expensive.
They weren't originally.
But supply and demand. As more and more people have been coming there and buying houses, it gets a little bit more challenging to find reasonably priced houses.
Houses were used to be more affordable down here than they were. Like if someone's moving from the cold north,
people are not moving to
get a house for less money. And
people are not moving to Florida because they want to be near Mickey Mouse. They are moving to Florida because they want to retire and they want their money to go as far as it can. And they're people that can afford to retire, so they're probably coming with some wealth. And they're not bringing it to spend it at Disney World. See?
Yeah.
So yes, what have you done for me lately is what Florida is saying to Walt Disney.
I have to tell you, last time I was at Disney World, this was before Last Jedi came out, like the summer before that happened, I think, or the year before that. And I noticed that the attitude and the impression of the parks had changed. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, but it reminds me of what I like to call a shitty circus. It's a line taken from the Wayne's World 2 when Piccadilly Circus, that's a shitty circus. But I was once at a circus once, and it seemed like rather than putting on a show, they were selling you something every 5 minutes. So you got to get face painting done. You got to buy circus peanuts. Even during the show, they take breaks about selling stuff, and it's like, I don't like it when I'm already paying for an event and I feel like you're trying to take more money out of my wallet. And it felt the same way at Disney World. They were constantly selling stuff to you there, like little lightsabers for the kids because of Star Wars and whatnot.
Yeah.
People walking around these things. And I don't have a problem with them selling merchandise. In fact, usually when I was a kid, I would want to get some merchandise there. But it was the magnitude. Like every little thing is monetized there now.
Yep.
Like the bracelets you have to wear, which...
Yep.
I don't know if they really improve the experience, if that's for them to help with getting analytics or
Which
something.
is really...
It's not,
which is really undercutting them with the the audience that they're trying to virtue signal to, right? The lefty commie socialists who don't have a lot of money. They maybe have some of their parents' money, but they don't have any money of their own. They can't afford. They want everything given to them for free and cheap, and they can't afford to go to the frickin' parks, right? And the ones that are going to the parks are people with families that have saved up for a long time to be able to go to.
Yeah.
And it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for them. And people are starting to go, you know what? Maybe it's not really worth it. Maybe I go to Universal instead. Or you know what? Maybe I just spend my money on my kids at home, spending good quality time with them.
And there's other stuff to do in Florida besides the parks. You go to Cape Canaveral. Oh, man.
I went to Cape Canaveral when I was a kid back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it so much. I got this little model rocket. It was the Apollo. I loved that so much.
I went there when they were winding down the space shuttle launches, and the guys giving the tours. Like, Mom was asking, "Hey, how do you feel?" Or like, you can tell they weren't liking a certain sitting president that was shutting down the space shuttle program, even though they wouldn't dare say that out loud. But you could tell, they were being. I don't know though. Of course, maybe they started the. What has NASA been doing lately?
I have no idea, because now it's gotten all private now.
Check out Unscripted with Deleted Scenes, episode 13, and Netters Network. But they're free, so I'm not selling it to you.
So I guess I was in Florida, July 15th, 1975, because that's when the Apollo launch happened. That linked up with the Soyuz, and I actually have photographs of the launch of that Apollo mission.
Cool. So, what do you personally think, though, of Iger right now? You think you better? Well, he has lawyers, but they're not giving him good advice. You think there's going to be litigation in the future?
Yeah, and we talk about poking the bear. He's definitely poking the bear, and Florida is going to eviscerate him. I honestly believe that there probably is going to be some SEC issues coming out of this. You've heard about, he brought a suit against Ron DeSantis, and there was a countersuit against Disney. Keep an eye on those and see what happens. My prediction is it's going to come up in court. Either you don't have standing to bring a case against the state of Florida because Disney is not Reedy Creek, or if you are, then here's some guys from the SEC to talk with you.
Disney either is or isn't Reedy Creek, and either way.
Yeah. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And the only thing that benefits you is some political points. If you can say, well, they infringed on our First Amendment rights. Okay, congratulations. That doesn't help your business, and that doesn't help your situation in Florida. But the reality is you've already admitted that you've committed securities fraud, and that could be trillions of dollars over 60 years of tax penalties.
First Amendment rights.
This situation could bankrupt Disney. It really could.
No one's saying you can't support.
Too big to fail? 60 years of tax fraud with penalties. Trillions of dollars. Disney is not worth trillions of dollars.
Oh, that'd be funny. Oh, I want to. We'll keep you appraised of this.
Yeah, this is something obviously that I'm following. But you know what? You can too. Go ahead and follow Legal Mindset. I dropped the link earlier. He talks about this on a regular basis now because there's constantly news coming out about this. So, yeah.
All right. Now we go into gaming.
Yeah, this is your area, man. I know nothing.
Okay.
I had no idea there was leaks related to Legend of Zelda.
There was, and I'll explain it to you too. The game
Okay.
leaked online a week early, and people are wondering how this happened.
Now, when you
And
say leaked, like
the
like the
game
guy with
itself
the
was
Magic the
leaked.
Gathering cards who bought something and he got
No,
no.
no, this was not sold from a retailer.
This is more
Retailers
like
follow.
the high seas type of leak.
It was a high seas type of
Okay.
thing, and we
Okay.
think someone, I guess someone who worked at Nintendo did it. They said it was the European version of the game, so it came from Europe somewhere.
Okay.
But let's get into this. How exactly did Legend of Zelda Tears of the King spoilers leak 10 years early? Because Nintendo was very tight on this
10
game.
days early.
Yeah, 10 days.
I was going to say 10 years would be very interesting.
No, 10 days. No, it would. Well, if it's Ocarina of Time, that might make more sense. But
Well,
there's no time travel in this game, at least not that I know of. But
Okay.
because I've not been reading the leaks. But Nintendo has a bit of a mess on their hands with the very, very, very early leak of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom 10 days ahead of its release. We rarely see this happen with PlayStation and Xbox games, but Nintendo keeps running into this problem, especially when it's still old school. When it's still old school and its games don't require connection to servers to be fully online, they're just ready, good for players, potentially bad for leaks. Okay, I'm going to translate that for you.
Yeah.
Do you know how like you buy the game for Xbox or whatever, and then you're downloading a huge patch, which may be half the content of the game coming from the internet, so you can play it? Nintendo, when they release their game on their little discs or little cards for their Switch, the game is done. It's on the disc. Okay.
Oh, in other words, they actually get their work done and
They get the work done and it's playable.
Yeah.
And then they still do, and even Nintendo patches, and they do day one patches. But even if you don't do the patch, you have a playable game. And I know they and a lot of other Japanese developers like this, whereas I think over here, companies have just gotten too used. We have a deadline to meet. We have to get these discs made, but we can always, have them download the patch and they'll be able to play the game on the first day as well. Except for Capcom and Street Fighter V. Oh no. I'm going off on a side tangent. I apologize. It has nothing to do with this, but when Capcom released Street Fighter V, it was set up as it didn't have an arcade mode, so there's no like story mode where you could play against the AI computer like you did in the old Street Fighter games. You played Street Fighter 2. So
Yeah.
And basically, it was the original release of that. It was online only, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then their servers kept screwing up, so you couldn't even play with people online. And I saw guys online. They're like, I can't do this. I can't play in arcade mode where I play against the AI opponent, and I can't play online with other people because the servers are messed up. All I can do is this stupid tutorial mode, and they paid like $60 for the game. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
and it was funny seeing the people online reacting because there were guys furious. They were like, eventually Capcom patched the game and they even added a story arcade mode to it, and it became a fully playable game. But I never bothered buying it because the original release was so botched. I'm like, screw it, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying Street Fighter V now. But Nintendo, basically, when they release a game, it works. They still patch things sometimes, but for the most part, they try to get everything done before the game comes out. Unfortunately, this means someone got their hands on this game and leaked the game online. The writer says, I'm not going to discuss the content of the leaks here, so no spoilers, but how exactly this happened, there appear to be two main ways the game leaked out early. One normal way, one pretty concerning way. The normal way is that some physical copies have broken the street date. Again, this happens with games that are mainly distributed through these physical cartridges and can be played without patches or server connection.
Okay, so that one is like the Magic the Gathering thing.
Yeah, like maybe someone working at a warehouse somewhere said, hey, you want the game early? Give me $300. Wink, wink.
Yeah, okay.
And then some idiot said, okay, I'll take it early and I'm going to plaster my playing online. Don't do that. Main issue, however, is the widespread dissemination of the game through ROM sites. Somehow the game has been ripped to PC emulators and shared on a massive scale through that format. It is, of course, very, very illegal, but unless you're streaming it publicly, like a few idiots actually did, Nintendo may not be able to chase you down. Though, of course, I would say absolutely don't do this and just buy the game this week. It's still unclear how this level of leak may have happened, but you can bet Nintendo is about to rain legal hellfire and brimstone on whoever they end up finding is responsible. This is a pretty big deal. Nintendo will send you to jail.
Mm-hmm.
They are not kind. Now, I don't know if they would send you to jail simply for downloading it yourself, but I wouldn't tempt fate. But if you're the one that distributed this thing, you're in deep trouble.
I'll be honest with you, and
Yeah,
you know where I'm at on these kinds of things for the
yeah.
most part. There's a difference between downloading it and playing it, and no one's any the wiser,
Yeah.
and downloading it, pirating it basically, and then streaming yourself doing it. Now you made yourself a target,
Yeah.
and it's almost incumbent on. This is Nintendo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Nintendo. It is incumbent on them to go after you and make an example of you. You basically made an example of yourself. They have to do it because everybody knows you did it, and if they don't go after you, they're like, "Well, I may as well do it." No, you made yourself the example, dude.
There was one YouTuber I watched where he reviewed an upcoming Nintendo game early. Not early. He didn't review it early. He had a review ready by the time the game released, and Nintendo said, "We didn't send you a review code. That there's no way you could have played the game all the way through and had a review ready in time." That's how they watch you. And I think they flagged this review to be taken down by YouTube. I think that's all they did to the guy. They didn't like sue or anything, but they had the review taken down.
Yeah.
And maybe he had to put it up like a week later or something. But I thought that was interesting. And with him, I think he bought the game. There was just a glitch on the site, or maybe a glitch in who he was buying from, and he got it early. But he still broke Street Date without permission from Nintendo, I guess, from their point of view. Though, in my opinion, not a big deal. He didn't actually release
that
review
one
early.
is a little bit more fuzzy because it's like,
that's
look,
just them. Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't do anything that was illegal. He didn't. You got look. I got a whole separate problem with the way these companies are going after YouTubers talking about their products.
I'm using this as an example to basically say that the Nintendo are not nice guys when it comes to this sort of thing. Because I would argue, even with this gentleman, okay, you didn't give him the review copy, but he got it early. But it doesn't matter. He still waited till the game came out before he put his review up. You didn't have to go after him on that. It's not like he's doing anything. But that's how tight they are about this stuff. But anyway, apparently, though, this means spoil. But anyway, so the spoilers for this game ended up online because people were able to watch people playing an illegal copy, which I guess was being run on a PC emulator. This is another problem with the Nintendo Switch. I'll be honest with you. It's an aging console now, and people have figured out how to pirate the games.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to. Nintendo eventually has to come up with a new console. And I love the Nintendo Switch. I'd like to keep them going, but
I will point out to you,
people
Boomer,
have cracked it at this point.
The downside here on this is that you now have the situation where, by combating the piracy, they're also making it so you can't have your own physical copy. You never own a physical copy. You got to go through them, and as long as they have servers, but once those servers come down or they decide they don't want you to have that license anymore, you got nothing. You can't play the game anymore.
Well, we don't want that, and I don't know what Nintendo's DRM is like. It's probably not as good as I think it is, but for all I know, all the companies are like this. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Every video game console you buy at some point has to connect online just for you to get it started when you're setting it up after you buy it.
Well, and for the patches.
If your console dies on you, then can you really use the game? And I think there were some other DRM issues. Like, I think on the base console you have your Nintendo Switch game on, it's fine. But if you were to buy a second Switch, even if it's a physical cartridge game, you can put it on that other console, but it has to check on your My Nintendo account like once a month, like it has to connect. Otherwise, it won't work. And I thought that was odd. Even on the physical cartridges, that wasn't working. I thought even on the digital games that might happen. So it's weird, and I don't like it. But I don't know. I don't like DRM, but I think I'm getting off task. Anyway, what I'm basically saying is, though, this thing leaked online. And Kotaku, this is where Kotaku comes into the mix. Kotaku got roasted for an article discussing the leaks, though I will say it's pretty common practice to cover industry leaks with spoiler warnings. Tears is just a more high-profile game than others. Kotaku is drawing extra criticism, however, given they recently complained about a Nintendo blacklist review copies, so there are some viewing the coverage as retaliation. I'm not sure if that's dramatic, but if you don't want to know the leaks, don't read that article, certainly. The surprise spoilers from random people are going to be more annoying, I imagine. In the end, leaks and leaked copies rarely have all that much impact on sales of the final project, annoying as they may be. I'm sure Tears will do phenomenally and coast to an easy Game of the Year nomination at the end of the year. We know more officially in a week. Okay, so here we have another article. This goes right after it. Video game
Before
journal.
before we
Oh yeah,
before we
yeah.
move
What do you
on
got?
though,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing I do want to say, again, not knowing games, I do understand entertainment, right?
yeah.
And leaks of something never diminish the interest in something. If anything, they make people more interested. Like you said, if someone leaks, let's say it was a movie. Let's say it's the
Yeah.
new, superhero movie that's coming out, and somebody saw it a week early and leaked all the details about it. Okay? If you wanted to see it, are you now not going to see it because you know how it turns out? No, you're still going to go see it. You might be pissed that it was spoiled for you, or you might see, oh, there's spoilers. I'm not going to read that. I don't want it spoiled for me. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to lose business. If anything, you're going to go, oh man, that sounds great. Maybe you were on the fence about it. Somebody puts out a bunch of spoilers. And you go, okay, now I'm going to go check that out. I think these companies are brain dead in the way that they're going after people on things like this.
Well, all I can say is, yeah, I know that they're very sensitive on this. It's one of their flagship titles. And I don't know. Like I say, do I think that they go a little okay, but anyway.
Heavy-handed? Yeah, I'd say so.
Sometimes, but then we have Kotaku, who I hate, and video game journalist sparks backlash with tweet of World War II photo amid Nintendo blacklisting. So Nintendo has blacklisted Kotaku. Let me go ahead and read from this. And apparently they're not the only company that's done this in the past. They run the trouble, I think, with Bethesda. They're the guys that made that Skyrim game, and there are a couple other companies too. Sure. Last week, Kotaku senior writer Luke Plunkett sparked backlash by tweeting a historic World War II photo in defense of a colleague who leaked details about The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom amid being blacklisted by Nintendo. Very normal behavior, Plunkett replied to a person who wrote, "You complain about Nintendo blacklisting you, then post spoilers based on leaks. Who is being unprofessional here? I am years past caring what these people say. I am simply aghast at the financial fervor with which it's thrown in 2023," Plunkett added before concluding his tweet with a photo of U.S. 356 Fighter Squadron Commanding Officer Lieutenant Colonel James H. Howard. In the photo, Howard sits on an aircraft emblazoned with victory markings, Japanese and Nazi Germany flags that represent confirmed kills against both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Nintendo is a Japanese company that is headquartered in Kyoto. For the record, he wrote, "This is how I feel about publisher blacklists." Now, I'm sorry, that's in really poor taste.
It is.
Okay. The tweet
but I also understand his sentiment, too.
I'll get to that. Okay. The tweet has since sparked accusations of insensitivity and racism, with many social media users mocking Kotaku's grievances against Nintendo's decision to blacklist them. The news outlet is facing backlash from social media users and gamers for publishing an article that reveals leaked details regarding Nintendo's anticipated game, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. On May 2nd, the website published an article titled "Everything We're Learning About Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom from the Leaks." The article, written by Zach Gack, came after he took to his personal Twitter account April 26th to express his disappointment in Nintendo for having blacklisted Kotaku. It's preview day for Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, a huge game I would love for Kotaku to be able to inform its millions of readers about firsthand. Fortunately, Nintendo still has it blacklisted from advanced coverage, a move I would argue is both unprofessional and coercive, Gak tweeted. Last week, Nintendo held a preview for the event for the upcoming game, where many media outlets were able to attend. However, Kotaku was not invited to the event for having been blacklisted for previous coverage of Nintendo games. Although it's unclear when or why the website was specifically blacklisted, gamers and social media users point to the numerous articles published by Kotaku, which is known to post leaks and insider information in the past that were alleged to have damaged Nintendo's business. One article that became notably problematic for Nintendo was Metroid Dread is already running great on Switch emulators, which was published just days after the game Metroid Dread was released in October 2021. The article shared where and how users could access the emulators, potentially allowing readers to illegally play the game for free, which was in turn regarded as an insult to many fans. Hey, real quick, if you're a Nintendo lawyer or employee, just don't read this. It was a silly mistake. Ignore this blog. You can go now. Okay, everyone else, writer Zach Zuzen started before ending the article with Nintendo's, like most game publishers, is really bad about maintaining access to their past games outside of the few big sellers. Thank God for pirates, emulators, modders, and hackers. It's since been updated, removed the lines. Zuzen was widely criticized and unidentified director at Nintendo and said Kotaku's history of writing about leaks online has hurt the company's ability to build anticipation for their upcoming releases, according to the Games Watcher. The director has also noted that while the video game company values their relationship with fans, leaks posted by Kotaku undermines them. I want to say something which I think is being dishonest on Kotaku's part, at least in the instance of the Metroid Dread leak. Metroid Dread was a brand new game you could buy in your console. And they're complaining, oh, Nintendo doesn't make their old games available. Well, it's not about you being able to play some old Nintendo 64 game on an emulator that you can't currently buy. This is a brand new release game. And that's, I think, what Nintendo was taking issue about it.
I get what you're saying,
how people can download it illegally on your site.
But there's two different things, right?
Yeah.
This speaks to the part about talking about the emulators and where you can get them. They're saying, well, this is helping pirates. Well, it could, just like, telling people how they could get cheap hypodermic needles for their insulin could also help drug addicts. But the fact is, it's just a tool, and it's how someone uses it that's either good or bad. And it is a good thing that these emulators exist so that people can play old games.
The emulators are fine. I mean, I'm a mixed opinion on it because I think, okay, some games can't be published now because of rights issues and stuff. Should that mean the games should be lost media? I don't think so. I also think, though, for instance, with the last year's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga collection, someone goes to the trouble of releasing these old games. You should, and if you were playing them on emulator, go out and buy the actual official product to show your support for it.
But at the same time, it's also... It's just like if you have something on VHS and you, for convenience or whatever, you want to turn it into a DVD, that's called fair use.
Yeah,
you can do that.
And that's fine, but this is in regards to a game that had just released, and Metroid Dread had just released like a week earlier, and they're saying this is how you can get it for free on PC emulators.
I get that, but I would
go ahead.
I would also point out that this is as scuzzy as it might seem, it is a news outlet. They are reporting on something that is happening out there, and I'm sorry that this hurts you, but you should keep the leak from happening in the first place. You should find a way to prevent it from being stolen in the first place. Once it's out there, people are going to talk about it, and you can't do anything about it. And if you start blacklisting certain outlets because you don't like them, well, you end up where we've been for the past 5 years, with the censorship and the.
Yes. But if you look at that article, the guy was like, okay, if you don't read this, and then he's like being snide about it. Nintendo just got pissed at this site. And they pissed off other publishers too. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, they rely on publishers to give them preview copies. They rely on publishers to do this. And I'm saying, granted, Nintendo are the most hard-headed, so if they tried smoothing things over, they probably weren't able to because Nintendo gets angry about this.
And here's the problem I have with the journalist industry out there. Mm-hmm. If you're the one that has the direct line to Nintendo and is getting information, okay, and you see that this other company is on the outs because they've been blacklisted, well, I'm not going to say anything because it's not me they're going after. Well, tomorrow it just might be. Maybe these journalists ought to start saying, well, if you're going to have a blacklist, we're not going to cover you. Figure out how you're going to get your news out. Bye. They don't have the balls to do that, though.
Well, yeah, but anyway, though, but what I'm trying to say is, though, let's think about like the new Guardians movie, and they say, well, here's where you can download it for free, and it's out a week or something. If a site was doing that, Disney may not want to do business, may not want to give them a free press pass and do a review of the movie before it comes out.
Well, I guess I would have to actually see the article you're referring to, but there was a lot of companies talking about Pirate Bay and this place and that place all the time. Okay. That doesn't tell you if you don't know how to do torrenting and stuff, that are they giving them a play-by-play how to download it and convert it and do, I don't know, man.
Fair enough.
That's an
I
entirely
don't
different
know what
thing.
they were doing in that article. You're right. I probably should have. I don't know if that article is even still up online. It sounded like they were giving them a play-by-play. But regardless, what was I going to say about this, though? There's no love lost between Nintendo and Kotaku right now. Apparently, Kotaku gave the new Zelda game a 6 out of 10, which I think is kind of ridiculous since most other sites are giving it higher. But
Well, it sounds like there's some
obviously,
bias going on there, so that doesn't surprise me, I guess.
but I just think it's interesting. But it's, like I said, Nintendo, they're a major company, they're growing. And what I want to put to you about Nintendo, they have the nice family friendly image, but they're as cutthroat as anybody else
Oh yeah.
out there. That's how you end up as number one.
Yeah, and this is what, people forget. You think these companies have an image. They are still big companies. Big, heartless, soulless corporations that don't give a flying fig about you. They only care about your money.
When the original NES was out, I could be wrong, and maybe this is just how I'm remembering, but I think they used to tell third parties, yeah, you can go ahead and release your game on another game console. Just don't bother releasing any more on ours if you decide to do that.
Hmm.
Like, I think they were sort of strong arming a lot of third parties back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the Sega still got enough third party support that they were able to basically fairly compete with Nintendo. Nintendo had to loosen up their regulations, otherwise, they would have bad relations with their third party developers, and they wouldn't let them release on anything else. But for a while there, they were strong arming everybody. Like I said, it's kind of weird how Nintendo and Atari share a similar history, like how they were starting out and stuff. But again, as for Auditor Dreader says, I still need to get Tears of the Kingdom. I ordered mine from Best Buy. It still hasn't arrived yet because apparently it had to be shipped. I'm sure it's being shipped out to Washington State right now before they realize that's coming.
Well, from what I hear, you could download it.
All right, you can download it legally on the Nintendo Store if you want to get a digital copy of it. Which, from what I'm hearing about their little cards, it may outlast the card, the digital copy. But where are we now? Are we up to Hogwarts Legacy?
Yeah, we're getting to Hogwarts. We could talk.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like we're going to get into instead of something to gripe about, something that's actually turning out good. It sounds.
Yes. I don't even own a Switch. Well, that's okay because this game isn't out for Switch. Then we're going to talk about now. Did you cut and paste it?
Yep.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lag.
Hogwarts Legacy PS4 and Xbox One ports are running surprisingly well. This is good news because I didn't know how the last gens of this would turn out. I knew they got postponed because they were big about releasing the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions and PC versions of Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy was released on last-gen consoles with a surprisingly solid port. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One players will now get the chance to play Hogwarts Legacy, and it seems that their experience won't be considerably worse than when they're playing on current-gen consoles, despite being using outdated hardware. Originally released on February 7th, Hogwarts Legacy is undoubtedly the most successful game of 2023 so far. Recent reports from Warner Brothers show that Hogwarts Legacy was able to sell over 15 million copies so far, and fans are eagerly awaiting more. Now, with the release of last-gen ports, more gamers will be allowed to play it. Players who want to try out Hogwarts Legacy on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 won't be disappointed. A recently released YouTube video by El Analista de Bits, for instance, tested the game on PlayStation 4, showing impressive results. The normal version of the console can run the game at 900p at a stable 30 frames per second, reaching up to 50 frames per second when the frame rate is unlocked. With the PlayStation 4 Pro, which I own, this ability is similar, but the resolution can be increased to 1080p. That's basically full HD. It's not 4K, but it's like full HD. Overall, not much was lost graphically. Obviously, the draw distance is lower and the quality of the textures was diminished, but it's not such a noticeable downgrade when compared to the PlayStation 5, for example. However, there are some changes that may not please gamers, such as loading screen when entering or leaving Hogwarts Castle. So the loads are still there because it doesn't have the fast, I guess, what do they call them, SSD drives now that they have on the new consoles. Most people in the comments for the video are very pleased to know that the port is running so well. For instance, McFear 1991 affirmed that it was a good idea to not release this version in February as the extra time working on it paid off It's not hard to remember how bad the Cyberpunk 2077 port for the PlayStation 4 was. For example, Avalanche was aware of that when deciding not to try a rush job. Another user called Moon Cerado said they were pretty surprised and happy with the results and expected the Switch version to maintain this level of quality. While the developers are most likely still tweaking the game to improve its performance on last-gen consoles even more, rumors based on job listings for Avalanche Software seem to indicate that the company may be gearing up for another launch. At the moment, it's still not 100% clear whether it will be DLC, a Hogwarts Legacy sequel, or a game from another franchise, though. Yeah, so I just want to say I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is good news. If you own last-gen consoles, the game is running as good as it could on those consoles. Is it running as well as current gen? No, but if the game had been made 5 years ago, it would run as well as it would.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's using those consoles to their fullest. You're not getting a gypped experience, a bad experience.
Yep, I get you. Yeah,
and from what I heard, the Nintendo Switch port has been postponed until November, but it's because they want to get it right on the Switch as well. So hopefully Switch owners, if that's their preferred console, they will also get a good version of Hogwarts Legacy. We want this game to be successful because it makes certain people upset. No, I'm kidding. No, we want it to be successful because it's a well-made game. That's why we want it to be successful, unlike Redfall, which we discussed last week, which was obviously no care was taken. All right, let's move on to the last two articles. Oh, sorry. I'm getting tired. It's
Richard Dreyfuss.
Is that what you used to call him back in the day?
Yeah.
Did he bug you with his political opinions back in the day?
No, not really. Okay. I didn't know anything about his political opinions. I just thought Richard Dreyfuss was funny.
I used to see him as kind of a leftist. I knew he was against the wars in Iraq and all that back in the day.
Ironically, though, I'm coming around to that way of thinking.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe he wasn't so wrong. Yeah. Oscar-winning actor Richard Dreyfuss issued some criticism for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences' new diversity and inclusion standards, saying that the updated requirements for Oscar contention make me vomit.
Yeah.
Dreyfuss' comments came during a wide-ranging interview on PBS Firing Line with Margaret Hoover, in which the actor discussed civics education in the United States, partisan discourse, and the Academy's Diversity Inclusion Initiative. It's an art. No one should be telling me as an artist that I have to give in to the latest, most current idea of what morality is.
Exactly.
What are we risking? Are we really risking hurting people's feelings? You can't legislate that, Dreyfuss told Hoover. You have to let life be. I'm sorry. I don't think there is a minority or majority in the country that has to be catered to like that. The 4 new diversity inclusion standards were first announced in 2020. They will be instituted in the upcoming 2024 Academy Awards, with 2 of the 4 needing to be fulfilled for a valid submission for Best Picture. The 4 standards are described as expanding on-screen representation, themes and narrative, expanding representation among creative leadership and departing heads, providing industry access and opportunities to underrepresented demographics, and expanding representation and audience development. Dreyfuss's comments continued with the defense of Laurence Olivier's performance in the 1965 feature Othello, in which the English...
yeah, exactly.
Othello's my mistake.
I'm sorry. That's just my pedantic Britishism.
It's fine. In which the English actor played the Shakespeare lead in blackface. Yep. He played a black man brilliantly. Am I being told I will never have a chance to play a black man? Is someone else being told if they're not Jewish, they should play in The Merchant of Venice? Are we crazy? Dreyfuss stated. This is so patronizing. It's so thoughtless and treating people like children. Dreyfuss' most prominent credit includes Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, American Graffiti W, and Mr. Holland's Opus. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor for The Goodbye Girl. The interview with Dreyfuss also touched on renewed efforts to control curriculum, ban certain books in public schools. I think we're cowards. Republicans send their children to schools hoping and praying that their children will come back Republicans, and Democrats send their children to school urgently praying that their children will come back Democrats, Dreyfuss said. The idea that a parent would walk into a public school and say, I don't want my children exposed to opposing views, that's wrong. He's making some good points here. Of course, the media outlets, as soon as they saw this article, it's like, Richard Dreyfuss defends blackface.
Kind of underscoring exactly what he's saying.
I know.
And you know what? Talking about taking it out of context, don't do that. I'm dropping the video so you can see the full interview from the Blaze yourself. See what Richard Dreyfuss said in his own words, in his own context, and in his own voice.
He's making his rounds on a lot of things lately. I think he's just had it. And
I think a lot of people have.
A
lot of people that have been quiet about a bunch of bullshit that's going on are not so quiet anymore.
I have to give him points because, of course, there's risks for him more so than even so much.
I'm not so sure.
Well, not at this point in his career, but the point
I was going to say he's pretty much done. Yeah.
But you need people in Hollywood standing up against this stuff.
I agree.
Against censorship and leave the arts alone. And that's why I'm here. I mean, this is why I started this whole thing. I joined up and even started coming on streams and whatnot, even as a user, because I was just getting fed up with the fact that, the arts aren't here for your, for your political purposes. The arts are here for the arts. They're here for us, for everybody. And he has a point. We are being treated like children, I think.
Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic as we get to the next article.
Yep, let's go to the next one. D. Snyder. Yep, this is the last one.
I like this guy. I really, really do.
And it's funny, too. I would even consider D. Snyder, a lot of his political opinions, he's a man on the left, right?
Except probably. I don't know that for sure. But
he breaks with them on this one thing. I'll get into it. Okay. D. Snyder was recently dropped as a performer at the upcoming San Francisco Pride Parade and celebration after he showed support for a controversial statement made by Kiss Paul Stanley about sex reassignment treatment for children. Now, the Twisted Sister frontman had issued a response citing his long history of support for the LGBTQIA+ community. After Stanley stated that normalizing sex reassignment for children has turned it into a sad and dangerous fad, Snyder chimed in, "You know what? There was a time when I felt pretty too. Glad my parents didn't jump to any rash conclusions. Well said." So here we go. He's supporting Paul Stanley's statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
While San Francisco Pride did acknowledge that D has always been a vocal supporter of LGBTQ+ rights, the organization pointed out it was heartbroken and angry when the singer expressed support for Kiss Paul Stanley's transphobic statement. In a Facebook post on Friday, May 5th, titled, "So I hear I'm transphobic, really?" Snyder stood by his support of Stanley's statement on children and gender transition, while asserting that his position on that particular issue shouldn't label him as transphobic. "Why did the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade invite me, D. Snyder, to be a grand marshal in their parade and sing 'We're Not Going to Take It' on the center stage at what could possibly be the most important LGBTQIA+ gathering in the organization's long history?" To quote Joe Garofoli, San Francisco Chronicle senior political writer, D. Snyder is a longtime supporter of LGBTQ rights. "I have always stood with the community and its important causes. I was honored to accept the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade's invitation, and I even gave my blessing for 'We're Not Going to Take It' to be used at this year's battle cry. We're not going to take it. Is that transphobic? I was not aware the transgender community expects fealty and total agreement with all their beliefs, and any variation or deviation is considered transphobic. So my lifetime of supporting transgender community's right to identify as they want to and honoring whatever changes they may make in how they present themselves in the world isn't enough. Why not? I've recently stated that I do not believe young children are ready to decide their gender allocation. I believe their choice should be supported and accepted by their parents, but I do not think kids have the mental capacities to make rational, logical decisions on things of a magnitude that will affect them for the rest of their lives. I do not believe they are mentally developed enough." Dr. Jennifer Katzenstein, Director of Psychology, Neuropsychology, and Social Work, and co-director of the Center for Behavioral Health at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, says, "It is important for parents to remember that development varies across children, and that one age, such as 7, is not the end of a development or a deadline for developing reasoning skills. Cognitive development continues into adulthood, and as parents, it is our responsibility to continue to challenge and support our children." Well said. It's just good parenting. "I am a proud moderate. I drive a Tesla and a Hummer. I have too many guns, but strongly support intelligent gun control. I have 4 children, yet fight for a woman's right to choose. I am a motorcycle riding environmentalist. I am a heterosexual who proudly supports LGBTQI IA plus rights. To me, and I believe many of you, none of these things are mutually exclusive. The transgender community needs moderates who support their choices, even if we don't agree with every one of their edicts. For some transgender people, not all, to accuse supporters like me of transphobia is not a good look for the cause. Don't reject people who are willing to march, sing, and stand with you just because we don't perfectly see eye to eye. We're still your allies. I, D. Snyder, will continue to support the transgender community and the right to choose, even if they reject me and moving forward. I am open to educating myself so I can be a better ally. Sincerely, D. Snyder, your cisgender cross-dressing ally. Meanwhile, Stanley issued a follow-up statement on his own Thursday, May 4th, attempting to clarify his initial comments. The Kiss singer Goodhara said, "While my thoughts were clear, my words were not. Most importantly, above all else, I support those struggling with their sexual identity while enduring constant hostility and those whose path leads into reassignment surgery." D. Snyder's aforementioned Facebook post can be seen below. It sounds like what they're disagreeing with is children having these surgeries. That's what it is.
Like most reasonable people do.
It's not about adults having the surgeries. If informed adults want to choose that, they don't have an issue with it.
And the only thing
that's not enough for,
the only thing I might disagree with that he said there, and in fairness, I don't think he really meant it. I think he was being purposely hyperbolic out of frustration.
Right.
And that's that, he kind of paints the entire LGB community as being against him. And I'm sure that's not the case. And I think with his last statements there, he recognizes that. Personally, I've started following, for example, I don't know if I can even say it because I don't want to hurt your channel, but gays against, gays against people that, do things with children, on Twitter. I follow them and, look, I'm not gay and, I'm not.
I hope not.
Yeah, well, you never would know, right?
It's gays against people that may have that may act like predators toward
exactly
vulnerable people, and I understand
there's a large segment of the gay community that is like, look, we have fought too hard against the stereotype that everybody who's gay wants to diddle your children, and that's not the case, and now you all are undermining that, and we're rational people that want to be left alone to do as we please, but also realize that children can't make those kinds of decisions not permanent decisions, so so by and large I agree with him. He's a pretty rational guy. You're right, there's some he's probably significantly more liberal than I am.
But the point is, he believes you have a right to.
But we agree on libertarian issues very much. And the reason that I have such high esteem for Decent, he makes a great point too. He said, what did he say? You're cisgendered, cross-dressing. What about it? You look at his old performances. He's got makeup and the garish clothes and stuff. Yeah, he had no problem with any of that kind of stuff. But back in 1985, there were Senate hearings investigating the Parents Music Resource Center. And he appeared before the committee.
I think Frank Zappa did too, didn't he?
Frank Zappa, John Denver, also. So it wasn't just people you'd think would be
different walks of life, different styles of music, but they were all in agreement on this issue.
I dropped the full coverage of him. He comes in before the committee. He's wearing jeans and t-shirt and whatnot. And, everyone kind of had this, oh my gosh, what is this guy going to say? And he's got this speech prepared, and it is so eloquent. Simple, but eloquent. Basically against, censorship. Look, I was just talking about it earlier about censorship. Censorship is bad. It is always bad. And look, I'm going to say it as hard as I can. If you don't stand up against censorship, even for things you disagree with, even with things you think are harmful, even if things you think are wrong, are lies, are fake news, whatever, if you don't stand up against censorship of that, then you believe in censorship. That's all there is to it. Censorship, free speech isn't for just the stuff you agree with. It's for everything or it's for nothing.
People forget the left spearheaded the PMRC. That was Tipper Gore, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was Tipper Gore.
Yeah, that was her big thing. I also got the impression that John McCain, I don't know if he was involved in that, but he seemed to be part of that style of going after things too, I remember.
Who'd you say, John McCain?
I don't know. I
think you're absolutely right.
I don't remember. It's been so long, but I think
I'll tell you something about John McCain. John McCain never would have gotten as far as he did if he didn't have what's her name as his running mate, the governor from Alaska.
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin. Yeah, people were voting for Sarah Palin. They weren't voting for McCain.
She did well by the citizens with that oil deal, having them get some of that. Yeah, that was.
And she was a populist. She knew what she was talking about.
Because you're going to drill here, you're going to give something back to the citizens of the state. That's what she said.
Yep.
All right. So what was I going to say? I guess that wraps it up.
Yeah.
But no, actually, it was funny seeing Dee Snider on Cobra Kai, wasn't it?
Was Dee Snider on Cobra Kai?
Yeah. He takes Miguel to go see a concert when he's in a wheelchair. Remember?
Oh, right. I'd forgotten who he was. He went to see. That's right.
He's trying all sorts of things to get Miguel, I'll never walk again. And they finally brings him to the Dee Snider concert. And what's he doing? He's toe tapping to the song, and that's what did it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'd forgotten that it was Twisted Sister.
I love Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah,
he's the Uber driver. Do you have Billie Eilish? And he's like, hell yeah, I do. And he puts in a Billy Idol tape. Oh man. It's just, he's just stuck in the 80s.
That's not necessarily a bad thing either.
No, but he didn't leave the 80s. In fact, in his house, I'm trying to remember in the first season, I think he had an old television with a VHS, didn't he? He was watching canon movies like Delta Force or something on.
Yeah.
It's
funny because, somebody on Twitter had a meme up from the first episode, the pilot episode of Deep Space Nine, where Cisco's trying to explain, linear time to these non-linear,
aliens, right? Yeah.
Aliens. Yeah. And he's explaining how, baseball is fun because you don't know where the ball's going to go. And so you have to react, and that's what makes it fun. And so they start to understand linear time. He goes, but if everything is linear, then why do you exist here? And they take him back to when his wife died. This is not linear. And he goes, you're right. It's not linear. And I made a comment on it. Everyone else was talking about how great that episode was. And I'm like, why do you exist here? Well, I've looked at the past 10 years. Would you want to live here? No, I'd rather live back there. I'm with Johnny Lawrence. I'd rather live back there.
Well, no, I can't say it. Part of me wants to say, we're looking at the past with rose-colored glasses, but we got a lot of problems right now.
Yeah, we just can't keep the mud off of our glasses now.
I'll say this. I'd rather be living now, though, than a couple of years ago with the whole pandemic nonsense, and I think culture is turning around.
And in fairness, I'd probably rather be living here now than what we may be looking at in 5 to 10 years down the line.
Let's hope not, but we don't know. I'm going to say, at least this summer, there are movies coming out I actually want to see. Oppenheimer looks good.
Oh, yeah.
Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, I'll go see that. And
maybe I should go see a Mission Impossible movie.
Well, you got to catch some of the old ones.
I know.
They're good. It's good stuff. Birdman doesn't like Part 2. I do, but he doesn't. And then you get into kind of the frame of the new ones, which, Abrams gets involved as producer. He doesn't.
And I still have so many. I know what you screamed about last Friday the 13th movies that I gotta watch.
Yeah, you gotta watch those Scream movies, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, though, I will say this: I am finished with Cobra Kai. So if you ever want to do a Friday stream talking about Cobra Kai, I am caught up. and it is. They are
Okay,
gonna be
wait a minute. So we got to talk about Cobra Kai.
You don't have to talk about anything on your Friday stream that you don't
And
want to.
what else? What else did we talk about? We got to do.
Hollywood, like Weinstein and other things, like how Hollywood's let us down as far as these scandals go. I guess like Bill Cosby. We were talking about. I don't know. You don't got to do nothing. You do what you want on your Friday.
No. These are great ideas. I mean, there's no reason not to, And was there something else that we were going to do?
I don't remember.
I may have to go back and listen to the stream again just to see.
I don't remember now. What was it? We already did Rocky. No, you mentioned something. You were going to save something for a DC discussion. Talking about Superman 3 and 4, doing a rewatch at some point.
Right.
For the that was the other one. That was one you thought of because we were talking about Superman 4.
Okay, yeah. Writing the ideas down so that I can.
For you're fixing the DC universe. Yep. Johnny Lawrence is my spirit animal, says the longest running superhero RPG on.
I like that. Absolutely.
Oh, it's funny. Did you see when he tried a White Claw and he spit it out in the bar? I saw that in the last episode.
Yes, I laughed so hard. Netta did too, because we watch all those Brandon Herrera videos where he's the White Claw penetration test. Pooh!
Oh man, he's just. I'm so filled with beer and White Claw, I'm not going to feel any of this. Remember he said that when the guys were about to attack him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
Oh, Daniel, we'll talk about it if we ever do a Cobra Kai stream. I'm waiting for that final season.
When does it? Do you know when that releases?
We don't know. I think they're filming it this summer.
Actually, you know what? I heard something that said it's probably going to be pushed out because of the writer's strike.
Oh, I hope not. It's the final season. They said final season.
Oh yeah,
because I think
it can't go on forever.
No, and I think Sony is going to do a reboot movie version of Karate Kid, which.
Oh fuck that!
Well, I don't know. I'll say this though: at least they're letting these people wrap up their story, so that's all we can hope for, right? At least they're not cutting them off.
Exactly.
They said we want to go out on a high note, and this is
Well, not only that, I mean, you piss off the whole audience that loved this show. And shooting yourself in the foot for anything that might be successful going forward.
I mean, it'd be interesting if they did a movie set in this existing Cobra Kai universe. Just had to be a similar thing with, a kid, learning karate for whatever reason.
Make it a spinoff, sure.
Yeah, or even if it takes place on the East Coast instead of the West Coast, they could do it that way. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against the idea of them doing. We'll see what they do. I don't know. All right. Time to wrap it up. What do we got going on this week? Tuesday, I believe Mr. Matchstick has a stream going on possible alternative timelines Gundam series that he and other people would create. Like I said, I'll see if I can tune into that if I can. I won't have anything to contribute though, because obviously I gotta get caught up on my Gundam series.
Sure.
They had one Gundam series where all the nations of Earth formed space colonies based on the respective countries, and Mexico's colony looked like a sombrero.
Oh gosh,
so bad. The American character on the show was called Chibbity Crockett.
Oh my gosh!
Like every country was this awful cliche.
Well, at least they're not, singling any out.
I don't know. It's just funny. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, Zootopia.
Good night, Zootopia. All right. Wednesday.
So Wednesday. I just put to be decided. I don't know.
Birdman stream. We're probably going to be doing War Horse, the Steven Spielberg movie War Horse.
Yep.
You ever see that?
It
has horsies in it. So. Has horsies in it.
Okay. Oh, War Horse. As opposed to War Whores, the people that are trying to push for more war.
Okay. I like to think that the Benedict Cumberbatch character in that is that same character shows up in 1917. He plays an officer in 1917. I like the idea that that's at the beginning of the war in War Horse, and then it's at the and he's in the thick of it by 1917. That's where he tells Schofield. He says, "There's only one way this war finishes: last man standing."
Yeah,
that's so bleak, right?
Well, but that is kind of how it goes, right?
All right, what is this? Back around 2010, I got really sick. Fever almost killed me. Brain cooking. Watched an Amazing Gundam series. Years later, we watched it, and it was all in my head. Fever dream. Yikes! You should write that down. You might have a book series. Just change it to something else than Gundam. Otherwise, they'll sue you. Or pitch it to Bandai. You never know. What do you have going on Thursday? What is Netter doing?
Netter is having, excuse me.
What was that?
I just was choking a little bit.
Sorry.
Excuse me. Special guest Surreality. It's an artist on YouTube, and they'll be talking, and we'll introduce you to Surreality's art.
Cool. And that brings us to Friday.
This one was this one that you suggested. I can't remember.
I suggested we did another music video thing, and when we did, I was going to do One Night in Bangkok, but you said, "Oh no, I have a lot more to say on that video." So you decided to make a Friday stream. So we're going to do
so it's not just the song One Night in Bangkok, though. Obviously, that's a big
album.
feature of it. We're going to talk about the musical chess and ABBA writing musicals and. And we will have a special guest, subject matter expert, returning guest to the channel, Sir Torrin Clegane will be joining us on Friday.
Cool. And then Saturday,
we will be over on Big Al Presents, Films with Friends, watching the movie The Iron Giant from 1999. As usual with these rewatches, I will be hosting the movie off platform, so the link will be provided in the chat so you can watch along with us if you don't have your own copy. Pardon me?
Which cut?
I have no idea. He's got to tell me.
Okay. There was a cut Brad Bird made later on, which I think had an extra scene and had a couple things in it that were different. And it was odd that Warner Brothers would allow someone to go back and make like a director's cut of an animated film. So that was actually rather interesting. They allowed that.
I will have to ask. This is what I usually do with Al. If he's hosting it or if we're hosting it or whatever, we got to confirm with each other.
Either cut is fine. But
mine is exactly this number of hours, minutes, seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the same one. Okay, good. We're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I both cuts are good. It was interesting they allowed him to, because there were a couple things he wanted to change, I think. One of the things was when the kid's watching TV, he wanted The Wonderful World of Disney to be showing on TV. But back in the day, it was because it was Warner Brothers cartoon. They couldn't do that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He went to make The Incredibles for Pixar, for Disney, and I think he had enough play with them that on the director's cut, they were actually able to put The Wonderful World of Disney clip on the Iron Giant.
Nice.
Which I thought was interesting that they actually allowed that Disney allowed a cross thing for a competing animated film later on. That was interesting. Yeah. They probably wouldn't do that now, but
no, probably true. But back in the day, because I don't think you'll ever see another DC Marvel crossover either. But there was a time when that happened.
Yeah.
So that brings us around to Sunday. So of course, Unscripted with deleted scenes, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, the official lead-in to Geeky Geezers. Episode 14 next week on deleted scenes. Steven, you got any insight? I just have it down as to be decided. Maybe you haven't even decided yet what your topic's going to be. But whatever it is, you should check it out because it's a good pre-show.
Definitely. Check out his pre-show. And next Sunday is my birthday. And provided I have internet next Sunday, which hopefully I will, we will be doing a rewatch watch party, as opposed to just normal news stream. But before you sigh, think of it as a very long good old days. We are going to be doing a rewatch of the infamous 1982 television movie Mazes and Monsters with a young Tom Hanks. We talked about it briefly on the channel before, and it's all about the hysteria that was going around with Dungeons and Dragons. And Troy will provide a link through Cosby so you can watch along with us. But
interestingly, I was just watching there's a couple channels I've started watching ever since this whole Pinkerton bullshit started. And there's this one girl from overseas. I haven't been able to pin down the accent just yet. And she's talking about I don't. She makes a reference to Masons and Monsters, a la Tom Hanks, jumping off the Twin Towers to join the Great Hall or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she made a Masons and Monsters reference. That's brilliant. So yeah, this is it'll be interesting. This is the kind of film that we would not probably recommend you to just go watch. You might enjoy it more if you watch it with us and hear our commentary.
And maybe we'll have some interesting commentary, the moral panic surrounding Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s.
We'll treat it like a riffs track kind of thing.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe I'll dig up some info. We'll see.
Good.
All right, so thank you all for tuning in. This went on for a while. Sorry about that, Troy. Hope I didn't keep you up too late, but
nope. Hey, as long as you let me go to the bathroom in the middle of the stream, I'm fine.
I had to pee in like a jar while we were on, and I sealed
well, it's your stream, so
I put it in the corner with all the others, which I hold on to.
It's your stream, and you can do with your stream whatever you want, even if that's in a jar next to your seat there.
I'm thinking of Howard Hughes. Remember Howard Hughes? Used to pee. Never mind. Didn't he have a collection of pee in jars?
Yeah, something.
On
like
that note, let's end the stream.
right. Okay. And Deleted Scenes is asking if I've seen the D&D movie. No, I have not. I am so angry and annoyed with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast that they will not get my money. So the only way I'm going to be seeing it is, well, let's just say I will see it when I don't have to give them any money. And I won't be doing any videos about it. I will tell you, privately what I thought about it, because I will not support them in any way, even by saying I saw it and what I thought about it, giving them any PR at all.
I got you. All right.
Yep.
So y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.